What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Reality TV RHAPpy Hour. My name is Jordan Parhar, and as always, I'm here with you to talk about some Big Brother on RobHasAWebsite.com. Today, it's a very special day. It's Father's Day, so I'm here with the live feed correspondents to talk about the top 10 best fathers in the history of Big Brother US. This is a very unprecedented podcast. I know we like to do the rankings, something a little bit different. Taryn, who's your top dad of all time for Big Brother?
It's obviously Derek. I mean, he's the best player. That's also a dad. He didn't let people take food out of his child's mouth. Like, it's got to be Derek.
I'm surprised you didn't say Devin, bro. Right? It's got to be Devin, right? Right, Alex? Devin's better. Chicken George. There's some great BB dads.
Yeah, Taryn, I can't believe it. I'm a man of honor and integrity. I've got a daughter.
I know you're
really
integral.
It's not something that I appreciate you talking about Derek. He's from my season, but he's not better than me.
I would like to talk about, I don't want to talk about my father. I want to talk about the dumbest joke ever, which is talking about that this is our ranking, Jordan. Like, this is it, right? Like, no, this is not it. What are we really doing today besides talking about the best dads ever?
Yeah, I felt like, it's Father's Day. I had to start with a dad joke.
Synergy I would have gotten.
JP and dad jokes just go together so well. For real, guys, we are here. We're doing a rankings show, people. We did one. We talked about the, projecting what Big Brother 18 would look like if it's a full All-Star season. We've since found out that it is not a full All-Star season. Yeah, I know, right? So instead, we're going to be talking about, we're going to do another ranking show, and that is the top 10 worst moves in the history of Big Brother US, not Big Brother Canada. So, we'll save that for another day when we can talk about me. But, no, today we're talking about BBUS. It's going to be a really fun show. We've always done rankings podcasts with, talking about who's the best player, or who are, the best traits of a certain player to make the ultimate Big Brother Frankenstein, or what's the best season. But today, we're talking about the worst. And I think I don't know about you guys, maybe it's because I'm a cynical person, or I don't know what it is, but I just love making fun of things and talking about what's terrible, because I just love seeing terrible things on reality TV and terrible moves and all these things. So it's going to be a really, really fun show, and I can't wait to get into it. Alex, quickly, you tallied the results for us. Could you just quickly explain, for the uninitiated, the point scoring system we used to compile these rankings?
Sure, yeah, and I'm with you, Jordan. I think, people love the strategy, but there's a reason we get train noises played every week with Becky. You know what I mean? We love that too. So yeah, we each kind of put together a top 14. And, we kind of use the same system that we've been doing with our rankings in the past. I think it's been working really well, and people have been enjoying it. So we've been kind of sticking to the mold if it isn't broke. You know what I mean? So going up, if you had it at number 14, it got 1 point. If you had it at number 1, it got 14 points. And, all 4 of us put together our lists, and the cumulative point total is determined in the top 10, which we are going to run through.
Yeah, it's going to be really good, and thank you, Alex, for compiling the results for me. I appreciate that. Brent, can you explain your criteria for how you rank? How did you order these? Like, what did you consider the quote-unquote worst moves? Was there a method to your madness, or was it just the first thing that came to mind when you thought of worst? What exactly was it?
No, there was definitely a method to the madness. I decided, for lack of a better set of criteria, to use the RHAP criteria. Rob has a podcast criteria, in that, the closer that you are to the end, the more it actually takes real money out of your pocket. That, to me, is a dumber move. Now, I did allow for things like, really bad stupidity, outrageousness of just giant proportions to override that. But for the most part, if you look at my list, and we'll release it after the podcast is over, the things that are at the top are things that really impacted. If you went A, you won. If you went B, you lost. And for some reason, girl, you decided to go B and you lost. And that is taking real money out of your pocket. If the idea of the game is to win money and get to the end, then I think you have to put that in your criteria somehow.
Yeah, that's what I used. I don't know, Alex and Taryn, if you used a similar thing. I'm imagining we're all on the same page on this one in terms of that. Quickly, Taryn, do you want to just talk about how, normally we do these things, and sometimes, when it's the best winners of all time, there's only one set list of winners that we can pull from. But when it's, something like, we did that All-Stars prediction podcast, we had a bunch of names to pull from. But really, we all had somewhat similar lists, but you want to talk about what these lists look like a little bit.
I mean, basically, it could be anything in the history of the show, right? Like, I went back to season 2 and went through all of the seasons systematically, every single tangible move that was made. I personally tried to stick to tangible things. So, like, Devin is a terrible player and he made a lot of bad moves. But I didn't say like Devin being Devin was the dumbest move ever. You know what I mean? I tried to stick to, were they a half decent player in the first place? Did they have the capability to make a smart move and they chose a bad move instead? And I also kind of stuck to the further along in the game, the worse it is, because in the beginning there are so many variables that it's a little more understandable that you're going to choose one that might be wrong, but toward the end those variables narrow down. And it becomes more and more clear that this is a good path and this is a bad path, and you chose the bad path. So yeah, it could be anything. I personally stuck to things like HOH competitions, vetoes, votes, stuff like that, stuff that's tangible that we can point to, and usually led to their eviction.
Yeah, it's really great because there are just so many different directions we can go in this. We've got a top 10 list for you guys today, but just to give you some context, we had 39 moves on the list. So 39 different moves in Big Brother history were listed at some point across the 4 of our rankings. So a lot of discrepancies. I mean, towards the top, it's very, I think we're all on the same page for the most part, but there were definitely along the way, there were some differences, and we'll talk about that as we get into the list. As always, we like to do honorable mentions on this show when we do rankings. So let's go around the horn quickly and talk about some of our personal favorite worst moves that did not make the cut. Alex, let's start with you.
Cool. Okay, so yeah, my honorable mention is one we were actually just talking about before the show because it happens at very early in a season, and it really doesn't seem to be like a major turning point. It's not talked about a lot, so it's something that I think is often overlooked. But for me, it is really, really dumb just in terms of, like, it does not pass the smell test. I think, how far along in the game something happens, that certainly magnifies, as Taryn was talking about. But ultimately, what I decided, like, really determined whether something was 1 or 3 for me is, like, could I see myself in those shoes trying this? Like, is that something my brain would reasonably go to as a logical out for whatever scenario this player was in? And in this case, Big Brother 8, Week 2, Kale trying to convince Danny Donato to vote out Dick Donato, her own father, just doesn't pass the smell test for me, Jordan. Seems like a really, really dumb move that ultimately does, in fact, get the ire of Dick turned up against Kale and, cements Kale's horrific kind of downfall shortly thereafter.
So for that move, Alex, just to refresh our memories, so it's week 2. Kale was not was Dick? Dick was on the block. Who was he against? What was the whole situation exactly?
So Dick is on the block. He's up against Joe, and they're trying to find a way to save Joe and get rid of Dick. And the tide, it wasn't really coming together. It's not like the tide was turning there. But in desperation, Kale decides she's going to approach Danielle. She's going to try to make the pitch that if Danielle really wants the full Big Brother experience, that she should get rid of her own father. It's a terribly, terribly thought. I mean, from step 1, the conceptualization of this idea is horrible. Danny obviously was complaining a little bit about having to play with her dad, but you're never going to get her to vote her out her dad over strangers week 2. It's just a lot to hate here.
Yeah, it's just Kale, the Mrs. Robinson alliance. I mean, I don't know. I thought I think she thought that she was control. It's just a classic case of, I don't know if she was HOH that week or someone from her alliance was. I can't exactly remember, but just or she was week 1. So I mean, It's the HOH is carrying over from that first week into that second week. It's a classic thing we see on Big Brother all the time, and I'm sure we'll probably see that in some form during Big Brother 18, which starts on Wednesday night. Brent, do you have anything to add to this? I mean, it's interesting yeah, go ahead, Brent.
I was just going to say that she topped it all off by being the sole vote to evict Dick during week 2 when everybody else voted to evict Joe. I will say this, though. You know, I can actually see myself trying this if I thought I had the votes besides Danielle to save Joe, and this is why. And this is why I didn't make my list. Because, you know, Danielle and Dick, they had been estranged going into the house. You can make a logical pitch to Danielle. Look, it's week 2. Do you really want to go through this entire game in a pair the entire time? It's entirely likely you're going to be targeted because of that. We could never have foreseen what was really going to happen, and they would both get to the end. It's week 2, remember. They don't know the outcome yet. So I can see, like I said, if I had the votes besides that, I think I could try this. I think it actually does pass the smell test. I mean, when you're talking about it, yeah, she tries to get her to vote out her own father. Of course it doesn't sound right. But remember that her father isn't really her father, like as in my father's my father, you know, because she doesn't really hang out with her father like I hang out with my father, you know. So, you know, my father and I, we go to the casino, we gamble, we have fun.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Right. So my point being that I think, you know, they're playing a reality TV show game. I think there is a logical argument to be made. Look, you don't want to proceed in the game in a power couple, which is what they were, and you might want to cut bait right now and, you know, just proceed in the game as an individual, and people will probably forget about you.
Well, regardless, even if Danielle would have changed her tune and decided to vote against Dick, wouldn't have really mattered ultimately.
Right.
Taryn, I'll ask you this. If Kale doesn't do this, do you think that there's any chance that the Mrs. Robinson Alliance has life in BB-8?
No. She was a terrible player. This was one of many dumb moves that she made, you know, throughout the beginning of that game, basically until she's evicted. So, yeah, I mean, I didn't have this on my list. I think that, for me, the scale is she was, you know, 2 weeks into the game her first time. So, like, the further into the game that you are, the more I'm going to come down on you for a bad decision. So I'm not as low on this as Alex is, but I do think this was definitely... You know, it's not a good move. You don't know this person well enough to think, just because you think that she has this estranged relationship doesn't mean that you should try this, because it's a very, very damning move if you try it and you fail. So definitely dumb, but I didn't have it on mine.
I think it sells well from a narrative perspective. It's the Sierra Easton gone wrong, you know what I mean? And it's way earlier in the game. Like, so that, you know, it's the end of the game when Sierra votes out her mom. Like, this is at the beginning of the game. There's really no reason for Danny to vote out the one person she knows in that. Like, so yeah, I just think it's interesting, and it's really funny, and I think it's a great example of kind of like the stuff that we're going to get to on this list.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
I do love how the difference between this move being like such a terrible move and basically it was kind of Hayden's move in Survivor. The difference was just the success, right?
Exactly, right?
Because they had the votes. Hayden had the votes.
Exactly, yeah.
It didn't matter what she did. Right. That's the reason why. Anyway.
Okay, let's keep things moving. Brent, let's go to you. What's your honorable mention? Honorable mention number 2 for today.
I didn't even realize how much I hated this quote-unquote move until I looked at it in comparison to everything else, and I thought to myself, how needless and stupid was this? It's very topical because I think we all have a strong suspicion that this person's going to be in the house this season on Big Brother, and let's pray to God that she doesn't pull this stuff again. It's Davon Rogers deciding to get into a fight for no reason whatsoever during week 1 and promptly gets her ass evicted week 2 by the same HOH she just got into a fight with. So, yeah. Girl, bye.
And fitting that we're talking about Big Brother 17 when Steve Moses pops into the chat room. So, what's up, Steve? Okay, so let's talk about this a little bit here, because my memory of Big Brother 17 is a little bit hazy, just because I had just come out of Big Brother Canada. I was kind of Big Brothered out at that point. So Brett, let's set this up. What exactly went down? Who did Davon fight with?
Okay, to be clear, she wasn't fighting with the HOH. She was fighting with the HOH's showmans, but that's essentially the same thing. Okay, so Davon is going around the house counting stuff. Fine, all good. She's not doing it very discreetly, unfortunately for her, but that's besides the point. It's week 1, everyone's having a good time. You know, people count stuff in the Big Brother house all the time. You see it on the live feeds. Oh, did you know, I was counting this the other day. Anyway, so she's counting stuff. Clay, I think, is laying with Shelly at this point, and he makes an offhanded comment about, you know, what are you doing or what's going on, and Davon just doesn't like people questioning her. So she decides to have a knockdown, drag-out fight with Clay later up in the HOH room when she decides to go confront him about this for absolutely no reason. All she had to do was say, oh, I'm just counting things in the house. I thought maybe you would come up in an HOH competition. Oh, cool. Very, very cool. But no, she decides to take it as an insult to her that he's questioning her and decides to go off on him, and it absolutely destroyed any chance that she would have in the game moving forward. And then, of course, with 2 HOHs, your chances are doubly good that you're going to be nominated. So, of course, Shelly gets one of those HOHs. She was Clay's showmance at the time, and she didn't like Davon much anyway, so she says, girl, bye.
Weren't, like, just off topic for a little bit, weren't Davon and Shelly on, like, a Night 1 alliance, too? Did Shelly not? Yeah, so, like, so
Davon, Shelly, Audrey, the power threesome.
That's right. So, again, Taryn, I'll ask you this. If Davon doesn't do this, does she go further into Big Brother 17? Is she remembered as one of the greats from that season?
I don't think she's remembered as one of the greats. I mean, we could also probably put how she handled the twin information on here, which was pretty bad. But yeah, I mean, for me, another huge thing that I looked at was how much did they have to gain by making this move? Like, what did they stand to gain if this succeeded? And with this instance, she had nothing to gain. She just went off on Clay. She couldn't take the fact that she had to get the last word in. She had to ruin this relationship, and that directly resulted in her eviction. The only reason I don't have it on my list is that it took place so early in the game, again, that it's kind of understandable. They're still getting their bearing. A lot of people make a lot of dumb moves in the beginning of the game.
I forgot how she had to have the last word. I forgot that, honestly. Thank you for reminding me that. Yeah, like, are you done talking now? Fine, you're done talking now. Okay, I'm done. Like it was absolute stupidity. Davon, if you're in the house, I love you for being good TV, but girl, keep it in the diary room. Do not do that stuff in the house. Ugh.
Alex, any final thoughts on Davon's blunder there?
Yeah, super dumb. It doesn't make my list. I think because ultimately, like, I kind of see it as not so much a move so much as, like, letting your emotions get the best of you, which, I mean, it happens. To me, it's, like, a less egregious example of, like, well, here's the difference to me. Like, Davon loses control of herself, and I think, you know, as soon as she calms down, she's probably like, yeah, that was a mistake. Conversely, something that does make my list, BB9, Jacob decides to tell the power couple that somebody said they were snakes. That takes planning. He had to think that through. He's calm and collected. He's not angry. And he's just, like, delivering the worst plan ever as a, you know, strategic, like, so to me, like, that's what separated, like, that's why I included a Jacob and not a Davon, even though they both happened at the beginning of the game. It's like there's just no defending that, and he did it clear-headed. I guess that's the difference for me.
I will say that I basically had that on my list because one of the things on my list was basically Season 9. Just everything about it was the worst move in Big Brother history.
Yeah, to be clear, everybody, Taryn, Talon, you ranked an entire season on your list.
On your list. Yes. So good, so good. Jacob, Jacob is so bad. It's so funny. I need to watch 9 again, but Oh my gosh, that's so great. Okay, let's.
Winter of 2008 is just the whole thing is just
Moving on.
the worst
Amazing.
move.
Writer's strike. Okay, moving on. Here we go. Taryn, let's go to you. You had this is your honorable mention that you want to talk about. You had this, I think, at 3 or 4 on your list, like
At
very
4.
high, and it
Yeah,
did
you guys are
not.
sleeping on me.
Yeah, it did not make it in. So sell us what we're missing with.
Everybody,
with
grab a book.
Okay, you guys, you're huge fans, and I am too. I think that this person is one of the best people to ever play the game, but that's partially why I'm so hard on him when he makes such a bad move at Final Four in All Stars. Will Kirby and Mike Boogie together, they make this move. They have this whole double date plan. They bring these girls to Final Four. And their move is, we're going to tell both of them together that they're our person and that we're going to keep them, and that they only need to be worried if the other girl wins the veto. The only reason to do this plan is in the instance that other person wins the veto. So you're telling them to be worried. You're telling them that they're dead if the contingency that you're trying to prevent happens. So when that happens, the obvious thing is that they get together, they compare stories, they see that you're playing them, and you get evicted. It's so, like, nobody else in the history of this game has made this mistake to this extent, because it's very obvious that the most that you're going to try to do here is you're going to try to say, okay, you don't need to be worried about that person. Don't get into panic mode if they win the veto, because then they're going to be like, okay, now I'm safe. They tried to prevent the wrong thing from happening by doing this move, and it was so bad from all aspects.
Okay. Wow. Dr. Will getting thrown on a list of and Mike Boogie. I don't know. I don't know how to feel, Taryn. I just feel so
He
so
should
hurt.
know better. He should know better. That's the thing. And this move directly resulted in him losing the game, which is another thing.
Okay. Let's break this down here. Alex, let's answer this question. Do you think that this move directly resulted in Will losing, not convincing them both that they're gonna take them to the end? Would you agree with that?
The problem is that he tried to convince them both.
That he tried to convince them.
His problem wasn't trying. His problem was that he would have succeeded if he has sex with Janelle. That's it. That's all there is to it.
Yes!
If he's willing to bang Janelle never talks
then
to
he
Erica.
wins!
Then why put himself in a position where he has to bang somebody and he has a girlfriend?
Maybe because Janelle was winning every HOH or veto, and you need to just bring Miss Piggy in to the side and just carry her along. You know that she's taking out everybody. And so you might as well let her just do all the work for you. It was so easy to just pull her in as, like, the 8th member of Chilltown. And so as a result, he found himself, ultimately in that spot, but he literally, flirted and manipulated the cameras for, 4 weeks and was able to, get out of that house with a relationship that he had no business having after the way he played that game. He towed a million lines that we've never seen anyone else have to toe in this game between real life and, I don't know. To me, it's just there's a lot there that makes it not.
I feel like we're so
bad.
far down the rabbit hole in this one.
Yeah, I agree.
We're going to criticize Dr. Will for trying too hard at Final Four.
No, it's not about trying too hard. It's about he actively made the mistake. He basically, what he did was he spent all that time wooing Janelle, and then at the last second he starts to woo Erica right in front of Janelle. And Janelle's like, obviously she's going to be pissed.
Compared to the stupidity that I see on this list, I'm always going to, give someone the nod for at least trying too hard, trying to do something, trying to change their fate. Trying to, even if they make a mistake, people make mistakes.
I mean,
Will is not perfect. Will is not claiming to be perfect. Will never said he was the best. So I have a hard time putting it on my list. And I really think you need to take a look in the mirror and check your lipstick by putting it on number 4 on your list.
At the end of 2 full seasons, one of the best players of all time makes Big Brother 101 mistakes. I think that's a worst move scenario, because he should know better. It's a move that directly results in his eviction, and he's played the game for 2 full seasons.
And the end result is he comes out of the season with the exact image he wants, to an exploding business in Dr. Tadoff, and his best friend wins.
He wanted to win that. If he didn't want to win that game, it moves to number 1 because it's even worse of a move. Listen, one of the best players of all time got outsmarted by Erica.
Okay, here we go. Okay, Terrence, so here we go. if you want to hear the rest of this conversation, go to the top 10 winners podcast that we did back in the fall, and you'll hear Taryn argue against
People are
Alex.
agreeing with me in the chat.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying we don't have all day.
It's because they want to bang you. That's the reason why they're.
That just makes me better, Brent.
Yeah. Well, at least you know.
Oh, jeez. Okay, so if you want to hear the rest of it, go check that podcast out, and you can hear our arguments of Dan versus Will and this move and all this stuff. But I agree, it is a mistake. It is a mistake for sure. And it's. I'm cool with you putting it there on your list. Just wasn't there on mine.
And I will say, I almost put Dan choosing to join Big Brother 14 as join the game as a coach. I almost put that on my list. So. That was
When you really get into it, there's a lot of things you could consider. Like for example, Devin being Devin was something that just missed my list.
Well, I was gonna say and that leads into my honorable mention. I tried so hard to get Devin on my list because Devin is my Devin. I'll be honest with you guys. Listen to this. Devin, I think, is arguably my favorite player of all time just because he's so bad he's good, and I was trying to find one move that I could point to that was just terrible, but there wasn't really anything that was really bad. It was just Devin as a whole, like Alex was saying. So I think I'll save Devin for my for when we do the top 10 worst players of all time podcast, which will be really fun sometime down the line. But for today, it really left me with two. One was Kaysar in Big Brother 6 when when they're playing the pressure cooker competition where they have to hold the button as long as they can. He just gets back into the house. He makes a deal with Jennifer, and he says, "Yeah, you won't put me up." She's like, "No, I won't." And then she backdoors him and sends him out the door, and he goes home. That I almost put on there, but Jennifer, as Alex was talking about with the rest of us in the pre-show, Jen doing that was almost as bad as Kaysar doing that, so I was like, okay, I can't do that. So instead, we're going to talk about one of my favorite moments from the history of Big Brother, and that is in Big Brother 10, when Dan Giesling and Ollie are in that endurance competition where they're hanging on the rope. I don't know the name of the comp, and Dan offers Ollie a deal, and he convinces Ollie to step down, and the deal is that Dan will give Ollie one nomination, and one nomination he could protect himself and one other person, and if the veto is used, Ollie would also have the right to put someone on the block. And Ollie believed that this was actually
a sweet deal.
He was like, "Oh yeah, I'm the HOH. This is a great deal." And then, sure enough, Dan screws him over after the POV. He puts Michelle on the block after the replacement nominee roulette. She goes home, and Ollie pouts and cries about it. And I don't know where to begin with this move, but it's just a thing of beauty. Brent, do you think that, I don't know, I'm just looking at the list right now.
No,
you didn't have it on there. So did you not have it on there? Did you cut Ollie some slack because it was Dan who bamboozled him?
I cut Ollie some slack because it's Dan, because you just said what a thing of beauty. So that to me says it's more Dan's doing, not Ollie's stupidity. That's really what's the crux of the issue here. And number two, you have to trust somebody in Big Brother. You cannot win this game alone. And granted they were on opposite sides of the field going into this HOH competition, but who says Ollie wins the competition anyway? I mean, maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. Dan was looking pretty strong. They were both looking pretty strong during this competition. I really don't know what would have happened if it would have moved forward. Maybe Ollie knows something that we don't, that he's feeling it, he needs to get some water, whatever. He makes a deal that he thinks is going to be ironclad. Dan is a Bible-toting man, even more so in Big Brother 10 than Big Brother 14, where he puts his hand on the Bible and when he was talking to Frank. So I'm inclined to think that Ollie's not out of bounds, thinking that this is probably legit. And I will say this, that if the veto had gone the other way, I think there was a way where Dan could have got out of this by essentially giving Ollie everything he wanted and still getting the result that Dan wanted, if that makes sense. I don't know if was there a way for Dan to get rid of, because Ollie was protecting Michelle at that point.
Yes.
Yes, so there was no way. So I guess he wanted to get either Ollie or Michelle out. I guess my issue with what Dan did was, if you're going to break your word, why not just put Ollie on the block? Like why not just evict Ollie instead of Michelle? You know?
Because Ollie was so multiple.
Yes, and Ollie sucked. Ollie is again talking about worst players ever. Ollie, not a good Big Brother player. Nice guy, very nice guy, but not meant to play this game. Alex, last year I was in a fantasy football league with Ollie, and I tried to offer him a similar deal, and he declined.
Learned his lesson.
He guess he learned his lesson. What do you think? What do you think would have happened if Ollie did not? Let's say hypothetically Ollie wins that HOH and he doesn't take Dan's deal. Do you think there's any chance whatsoever that Ollie and Michelle rise from the ashes and manage to pull out a win in Big Brother 10?
That's not impossible. We're ignoring that it also gave us a fantastic DR where Michelle Costa loses her mind. I bet he's not even a school teacher. Yeah. How about that? Yeah. So that was great. But yeah, no, like it's a really bad move. Like Dan. I mean, Dan is great, and you've got to give every bit of credit to Dan for making the sale. But he's still selling ice to Eskimos. You know what I mean? It's still a really tough sell, and it's something that doesn't pass the smell test. You know what I mean? Like, it's something that Ollie, if he doesn't want to believe it so bad, he should not be buying this. You know what I mean? Like, if you really stop and think about this rationally, like, dude, stop it. Like, this is not the kind of offer that he's going to adhere to. You know what I mean? So, it's not great. It's definitely not great. Dan is, but the move isn't from Ollie.
Taryn, we all know you are the #1 Dan Giesling super fan there is in the world. Any last thoughts on this magic that Dan managed to pull out of the hat with this one?
Well, my favorite part about this move is that Ollie comes out of it thinking that he just manipulated Dan, that he just he's pulled this mastermind move, and he's like, I am like the best player ever, and he has no idea what's coming. Like, he can't even fathom that Dan would not follow through with this deal, which is part of why it made my list, because it's so out of the realm of like possibility. Like, nobody gives up all of their power. Like, obviously Dan's not going to eliminate his closest allies for you for no reason other than to keep his word. And so that's why I had it. There was no benefit. There was nothing to gain from this. Just so dumb.
So dumb. Okay, so that's gonna do it for our honorable mentions. And already, I mean, we got so many great moves in here, so I'm really excited to run through the top 10 and talk about this with you guys.
It's very fun because it's a dumb show. I've never heard Taron Armstrong say the word dumb so many times in a podcast so far. It's so fun to hear him talk like this. Just totally like letting all of his frustrations out, totally criticizing these people for their total stupidity. It's gonna be a fun show.
And the chat, there's so many people in the chat that are with me with Will, so look at that.
There you go.
Just because they're vocal doesn't mean they're right, Taryn.
Yeah.
I expected tons of backlash, so I'm just like...
So there we go.
I'm over the moon.
We're going to be talking about... This is going to be like a 6-hour podcast, because like every 2 moves, we're just going to revert back to, yeah, Will was dumb. Will shouldn't have done that. Okay, so here we go.
You guys are just upset that I won.
Okay, we're just gonna.
What?
You didn't win anything, Taryn. Let's talk about this in the. If you think strongly about this, please in the comments after this is over, leave a comment on RHAPpyswebsite.com and just say hashtag Taryn was right.
Man.
Hashtag Taryn is crazy.
You don't know what you just started.
No, but it'll be fun. I really don't mind. Okay, let's go with this. Okay, number 10 on the list. And sometimes on these shows, if you've listened to these shows before, you'll know that every so often we run into ties. And today we've only got one tie, but it comes in at number 10. And we'll talk about these two. These both came in with 13 points. We'll talk about this one first, just because it was on again. Brent, somehow, every ranking show, Brent seems to somehow muscle one thing onto the show.
Oh my God. I can't believe that this did not go further up. This is something, if you had something that changed the course of an entire season where they could have literally run the table and taken home every dollar that was available, rather than the result of what happened, which is only getting $50,000, this is it. It's Julia deciding to unbelievably target Austin in Big Brother 17 rather than Johnny Mac, who she could have targeted during the Final 6 veto competition. Okay, setting it up. Remember, it's Big Brother 17. There are 6 people left in the game at this point. Austin and Liz are on the block. Julia is currently off the block. They're all in a 3-way alliance, okay? Vanessa, unknown to them, is currently working with Steve and Johnny Mac. But they don't really know that at this point. They're kind of not sure exactly what's going on. But she's working with them. So they go into the veto. It's a veto that is totally set up for Austin and Liz and Julia. They want to throw it to Julia so that Julia is safe, Liz is safe, and Steve has to nominate Vanessa, and they can vote Vanessa out and save all 3 of them. They were on their way to doing it, okay? Steve is out of the game. Now they're down to 5 people in the Final 6 veto. For some reason, this goes back to, is it stupidity or is it genius? Because Vanessa, amazingly, a little bit of luck, too, because she happens to be sitting, right next to Julia where other people can't hear her. She tells Julia to target Austin. I won't even get into why, but she talks her into it. And unbelievably, Julia targets Austin. And it seems like the minute she did this, she realized, oh my God, what did I just do? Because Austin absolutely goes off the rails. If she had not targeted Austin at this point, you could have been looking at a Final 3 with Austin and the twins, which is where I thought it was going. I know Rob thought it was going this way. I mean, this was such a chance for them to absolutely turn the tables on the rest of the house and get all 3 of them through the Final 6 week, and somehow they didn't do it. Can somebody please tell me that I'm right?
Okay, well, first, you know what we'll do? Well, here's what we'll do. Okay,
All
we're
right.
gonna put up both of the. We're gonna talk about the 2 on the list.
Okay.
And Alex didn't have either of them on his list, so I'll let Alex have the floor, and then from there we'll vote and we'll determine which of these moves is in 10th. Okay. So Brent had that. None of us had this on our list, but Brent had that at number 2. And I agree, very stupid move. The other thing that is tied with 13 points on the list at number 10 is back in Big Brother 6. One of my all-time favorite players, Howie Gordon, wins head of household, and he decides, he's got a decision to make. He can go after Maggie, and this is a very critical point of the game. I believe, Taryn, wasn't this right after Kaysar went back out the door for the second time?
It was after the first time he got evicted.
After the first time he got evicted. Okay, so it was after the first time.
He goes out so many times, it's hard to
it's hard to keep track, right? So this is right after Kaysar gets evicted. Howie wins HOH, and he has a decision to make. Does he go after Maggie and the friendship, or does he take a shot at his own alliance in the Sovereign Six, at James, Ryan, and Sarah? Taryn had this on his list. Taryn, you had it at number 7. I had it at number 11. So Taryn, explain this move for the audience a little bit here.
This is one of the all-time big fumbles for an HOH, right? It's a season where there's 2 very clearly divided sides, with James kind of in the middle, but he was never really with the friendship. They never really trusted him. They never really wanted to work with him, other than Ivette. And so Maggie had just taken Kaysar out, just taken out one of Howie's biggest allies. Howie wins HOH, and he's faced with a decision, and he, instead of going after the other side, which already outnumbers them, he decides he's going to go after James and Sarah because he feels like they're in the middle. And they kind of were, but they also had no other option than to work with Howie and Rachel and Janelle. So the fact that he chooses to go this route is outstanding. The friendship, in the meantime, is just I really hope that they nominate James because we have no intention of sticking with this plan. Obviously, it goes terribly wrong when Kaysar comes back in and then is immediately evicted, and then so on and so forth. They go on to lose this season because mostly of this move. Even after he makes the nominations, he says something along the lines of, I may look back on this move and regret it, but right now I have no regrets. So.
Yeah, it's just I don't get it. I mean, the week before as well, I think Howie just needs to look at this, right? I mean, the friendship just the week before they nominated James. So you know that this was in week 5. In week 4, Maggie put up James and I think it was James and Kaysar, right? Yeah, it was James and Kaysar. They both go up, and then ultimately Kaysar goes home. But if Howie's thinking at all, he knows, okay, I can pull in James, because he's not with the friendship. The friendship is not with him. Let's work together and let's take them out. So that's why I put it on my list. I just thought it was mind-boggling. It's just a huge blunder by Howie there. Alex, let's throw it to you. Out of these two moves, you didn't have either of them on your list. Which one do you think is worse?
Okay, well, it's interesting. I'm actually going to defend Brent here because this just missed my list. So it's not like it's like totally out of left field. I totally get where he's coming from with the Julia thing. It's definitely the worst move of BB17. Like, there's not a lot to nitpick from that season, but that's right there. They were both like, when I had like 18 and I was narrowing down to 14, they were both still sitting there. Number 15, the one that just missed my list, was Howie's. To me, that is worse, and really the biggest reason is the Vanessa factor, I think. The fact that there's a player as good as Vanessa kind of hornswoggling Julia into doing something that's really dumb, coupled with the fact that, yes, it's really, really dumb to, like, you know, you can step back, assess that POV, and just know that, like, Julia needs Julia or Austin to win that thing. So for Julia to target Austin in that is really dumb. But at the same time, like, Julia hadn't trusted Austin all season. It's not like this is, at the time, your twin sister's boyfriend who you, like, totally trusted with your life in the game. Like, they had trust issues with Austin all season, especially Julia. So it's like there was that in the background. I'm not defending the move in any way, but I can, like, part of me can see why she was stupid there. Whereas, like, to the best of my knowledge, Howie, doesn't he, like, still think that was the right move? Or, like he really defended the James thing. Like, to me, that's probably worse, if for no other reason than, like, Howie's, like, complete unawareness to how bad it was.
James, you're a dangerous player, and if I don't get you out right now, then I'm not gonna win the game.
Yeah, well, it's like at least Julia, like, had, like, 10 minutes. She was like, wait, I was dumb, you know what I mean? But it's like, does Howie even know today that he was dumb?
Well, my whole issue is that going into that veto, Austin himself was saying to Julia, you know, we're going to throw it to you. We are going to throw it to you. They're down to 6 people. One of the other side is out. You know, and it was also, I don't want to get into the weeds here, but the order of that competition was such that they literally had it handed to them. All they had to do was just not target themselves, and they could have won. Julia could have won the veto. Vanessa would have gone home at final 6, and who knows how that season looks now. But instead of it, Julia herself went home this week, which is why I thought this was such a terrible move.
And I'm totally with you in terms of, like, when you're looking at these moves as, like, a headline, you know, like, I love Kale tries to convince Danny to evict own father, just like I love Julia targets own sister's boyfriend. You know what I mean? Like, these are, like, the iconic, like, if you just can sum them in a sentence, you're like, wow, right, that's some riveting television and really, really dumb strategic gameplay. That's awesome. Yeah.
I remember, just really quickly, coming back from the live feeds last season, because last year was the first season we were all doing the live feeds for Big Brother 17, and we were trying to figure out, okay, why are they all fighting? Like, what happened here? Like, what? Julia target who? What? How did this happen? Like, it was just absolute craziness. We didn't know what happened. When you saw the result on the show on Wednesday night, it was like, oh my God, I can't believe she just did that. Just OMG.
Part of the difference for me is that Julia kind of basically just got flustered in the moment and made a wrong decision because Vanessa was in her ear, whereas Howie had like a whole week to make this decision, and like it cost him and his alliance basically the whole game, whereas Julia probably never had a chance of winning in the first place. So I don't just blame Howie. It was also, you know, Rachel and Janelle to some extent. Yeah. They were on board. You know, Rachel criticized Howie for making the deal with Maggie, but she was still on board with the move. So, I mean, we blame Howie for it, but it was all of them.
The groupthink was strong in season 6.
Yeah, really, as strongest groupthink arguably of all time, and just because of the literally just 2 halves, and that was it. Okay, let's quickly go around. Let's take votes here as to which one is going to be 10th and which one's going to be 11th. Alex, which one is worse, Julia or Howie?
Sorry, Brent, I gotta go Howie.
Brent, you're gonna stick with
No,
Julia?
I can go with Howie too. I understand where Terren's coming from. Sorry, I put something in my mouth. I didn't know you were gonna call me. No, I was going to say that it's true. You know, she did just do something in the moment, and you know, actually, Howie thought about this for hours on end. So I can see where they're coming from. We'll put Howie at number 10. And this can go at number 11. Fine.
That's for me where these rankings get really interesting. You know what I mean? You can like put something ahead because it's dumber, or you can put something ahead because this person refuses to acknowledge that it was wrong, or like there's a lot of ways to tweak. Like I think we generally agree if something was dumb or not. But it's like when you get into like how dumb was this versus this other thing, that's when it gets very interesting.
Yeah,
Plus, I also gave the, moves extra points for if more than one person is doing them. Like there's some moves that we're going to talk about later on where more than one person is guilty of something here. Like seriously, how in the hell did this happen? Where so many people agreed on the same thing and got the bad outcome. So yeah, I understand where you're coming from. I get it.
Okay, so there we go. That was the easiest deliberation we've ever had. Brent just laid down his sword.
I'm easy.
So there we go. Hey, thanks, Brent.
He knows to pick his battles. That's fine.
He does. Okay, so there we go. So we've got that. Okay, so number 11 is Julia's move. Howie is at number 10, and here we go with number 9. Number 9 had 15 points. I'm just looking at the list here. It was number 6 on Alex's list. It didn't make Brent's list. It was, let's see right here, it was number 9 on my list, and it wasn't on Terren's list. So again, this is one that wasn't really on everyone's list, but I think if you, again, Alex, you were selling the headlines earlier. I think this is, this might be the epitome of the headlines. So why don't you tell us about this move?
Yeah, gotta love this headline. Cowboy evicts own sister at Final Four so he can go to the Final 3 with the showmance. Big Brother 5. Wow. Does anything more need to be said?
I don't know. I mean, this one is one that I don't think this isn't at the forefront of a lot of people's minds because you see what happened to Cowboy, and he still ended up in the Final 2 with Drew. But I mean, that is a very results-oriented way of looking at it because, I mean, if you're Cowboy and you take Nokomis to the end with you instead, then you are guaranteed pretty much to go to the Final 3. Yeah, you're guaranteed 50 G's, but instead, by taking Diane, if Diane wins, you're out of 50 grand. So, dude, what?
He needs that money.
He was counting on Drew breaking someone's heart the moment he made that decision. That's basically what he was counting on. He needed to have that happen as soon as he evicts his sister, which is just a terrible strategic move here. It's not even that she's his sister. It's that when you break it down, there's just no explanation for why Nokomis should be the one he evicts, and he has the sole vote to evict.
Yeah, it's just so stupid. Like there's like literally nothing holding him back. Like I don't know. Like I was not watching feeds at that time, so I don't understand what was going on in Cowboy's head. And maybe I need to rewatch Big Brother 5 in that week in particular and just take a look at it. But just
I mean, he was pretty. I love Cowboy, but he's pretty simple, and he was really big on his friend. I mean, he was. I'm sorry. Whatever, it's true. And he really was into his friendship with Drew. He thought that friendship was true. He wanted to make Drew proud. I remember this whole. I didn't watch feeds back then either, but I remember that he was all just giddy with himself that he had this power and he was going to save the person who Drew thought deserved to go forward, and Diane, and evict his own sister. It just it didn't make my list, but only because I thought there were more stupid things on the list. But I can see where you're coming from, that this should be on the list. I see where you're coming from.
Terren, this didn't make your list either. So
much stupidity.
Yes, so much stupidity, really. Well, let's talk about this. Why didn't it make the cut for you?
Part of why it didn't make the cut for me is that you kind of have to ascribe like intentions that Cowboy didn't have in order for this to be especially dumb. Like you have to say that Cowboy should have tried to get second place, but that's not really what Cowboy was thinking, right? He wasn't like, oh, I want to ensure that I get second place. He was thinking, I want to win the game, and he thought that in order to do that, he needed to be loyal to Drew, and so on and so forth. So, like, I think that it's obviously not smart. It didn't come from a good place. He had misinformation. He had misplaced devotion. But I think that looking at how he saw the game, it's understandable that he made this decision, right? Like, it would have gone against everything that he had done in the game to betray Drew like that in order to secure a spot in Final 2, in order to ensure second place. So it's not like he was trying to do one thing and totally failed because it was a terrible move in order to achieve that goal. He kind of did achieve that goal. So it, again, not smart, but not dumb enough to make my list because he achieved what he was kind of going for.
Yeah, that's fair. It's just I think it just goes back to what Brent said. Cowboy, nicest man, but just not the brightest when it comes to Big Brother.
Yeah, it's tough to rank because, I mean, Cowboy is somebody that, right, like, we don't necessarily ascribe the traits of a strategic thinker to him, but, like, yeah, at the same time, you know what I mean? Yeah, like, this is, you know, this is the guy that Marvin revealed pooped himself during a head of household competition. I don't think we're going to look for him to, you know, pull off any, you know, Machiavellian, you know, decisions here. But at the same time, like, he was drawing dead at Final Four. We knew that. Obviously, he didn't, but, you know, yeah, like, he set himself up for, like, a, you know, a minuscule shot at Final 3 that paid, or Final 2 that paid off, as opposed to a sure thing.
Should Cowboy pooping his pants be? Should that be in the top 10 worst moves of all time?
That was a great move. It got him to Final 2.
Yeah. Okay. Let's keep going. All right. So that was number 9. Let's go to number.
Emphasis on move.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, let's go to number 8 on the list. This is one that didn't make my list. It didn't make Taryn's list, but I do see why it did make Brent and Alex's lists, and it is a very interesting one as well. We're going back to Big Brother 6. Number 4 on Brent's list and number 10 on Alex's list with 16 points. It's Ivette. Ivette talking smack to Rachel, but there is a little bit more in Big Brother 6, but there's a little more context to it. So, Brent, why don't you set this thing up? What did Ivette do, and what was the result of this action here?
All right, so Rachel has just been evicted. Prior to her being evicted, she very much irritated Ivette by her behavior at the nomination ceremony. But fortunately for Ivette kept all of her frustrations, for the most part, either within the friendship, her alliance, or in the diary room. She complained to us that she thought Rachel was being, in her words, a total bitch. Okay? Now, I didn't really see it that way, but that's fine. Perceptions in the Big Brother house are what they are. So Ivette perceives that Rachel is being patronizing by the way she's acting towards Bobo when she is nominated for eviction here at the nomination ceremony. Fine, all well and good, she's telling us in the diary room. Where she loses me and why it's so high on my list is this is, 1, completely unnecessary. Number 2, takes real money out of her pocket, possibly. Remember, Ivette goes to the Final 2. She's talking to a jury member here. She knows this person's going to be on the jury. She loses 4-3, and as you might have guessed by now, Rachel voted for Maggie at the end. Unbelievably, in her goodbye message, she decides to talk smack and give some life lessons, and I have it for you here. This is an amazing dichotomy between 2 people who are playing Big Brother, who are both trying to get to the end. Maggie says the following: Rachel, I think you played this game with a sense of maturity and self-respect that is really rare in here. Cut to Ivette. Your behavior in this house is out of control. You have left me speechless, with my mouth dropped. I've never seen such poor sportsmanship like that carried by yourself. Goodbye. Remember, you're campaigning to a jury member. She loses 4-3. Now, an argument can be made that Rachel, who did not vote for Ivette, was never going to vote for Ivette. But Ivette put the nail in the coffin by making sure that there was never any chance she would vote for her. In fact, the crazy part is that when Big Brother played these goodbye messages to Rachel, this was the last one they played. So it was left hanging there all awkwardly, and Julie said, well, what about that? It was very embarrassing for Rachel to have to hear that her behavior was terrible in the house in a studio where she had no support whatsoever, because remember, there were no live shows at this time. So it was just really bad for Ivette. Really, I think, possibly cost her $500,000 here.
Yeah, I mean, I think Rachel was like on the verge of tears. Like
Yes,
she was
she was
very
too.
hurt by.
She was crying.
Yeah, she was very hurt by that. Alex, what do you think about this move in general? You had this one at 10. Do you think that if Ivette does not do this, that Rachel, yeah, she votes for Ivette potentially over Maggie?
There's potential there as opposed to absolutely drawing dead for that vote, which is what the case is after Ivette does this. For me, like, this was a really difficult one to rank because, I toyed with the idea of, like, how much of a strategic move is this per se? You know what I mean? I think that's maybe like a bit of like if anyone has an issue with this, it's probably because you could say like, well, that was just an emotional outburst. The thing to me that set it apart was that this is a pre-recorded diary room where you're getting to give your last thoughts to someone you know is going on to the jury and is going to get a chance to vote for you to win the game. I mean, Ivette had all the time in the world, presumably, in the DR to calm herself down and express herself concisely and in a way that might be conducive to winning Rachel over. I mean, she not only is completely hurtful and rude in a way that like Rachel is totally stunned after hearing it, she's also presenting it under the guise of like, let me help you out by telling you how to be a better person. Like, Ivette is just so delusional in this moment about what she's doing. Like, she's being spiteful, but she's tricked herself into thinking she's like helping her somehow. And it really is this mental gymnastics that puts her in a position where, yeah, she shoots herself in both feet for the end game. And to be honest, I almost had another Ivette moment here, but I felt like because of the variables in play and the uncertainty, it couldn't make the final list, which is, if Ivette throws the final HOH to Janelle,
Yep.
She probably beats Janelle with that many friendship members in the in the jury. So there's a couple spots where Ivette, if she does one thing differently, she probably wins this game. So the overall body of work of just poor decisions from Ivette, you talk about you go this way and win, you go this way and lose. She's like at the top of the list in terms of people that misstepped late game and really, really made all the difference.
Yeah, I remember watching BB6. I think it was 11 at the time. Like I was a young lad, and even then I was just like, what? Wait, what? Like, why is Ivette doing all this stuff? I mean, it did not make any sense to me at the time. It makes no sense to me now. Taryn, you did not have this on the list. Any final thoughts on this as to why it did not make your list?
Definitely very, very bad move. She had nothing to gain here whatsoever. The only reason I didn't have it on my list was because it's kind of common. People do this a lot. It just doesn't usually end up screwing that person over in the way that it does in this particular circumstance. So that's sort of why, like, the events that happen after where she actually makes it to Final Two and she loses by one vote kind of like really sells the point that this was a really bad move to make. But it does happen a lot, so that's why I didn't have it on mine.
Okay, let's move forward. We'll go to number 7 on the list, and this is one. I think this is the first one. One of the few that made it onto all of our lists. This one goes back all the way to Big Brother 3, and Taryn, I'll throw it to you. Do you want to talk about this move? It's at the Final Four, and it has to do with an eviction.
Yeah, so we've got Jason and Danielle who have run the game the whole time. They've got they basically have the power. Danielle, I believe, is HOH, and Jason is the sole vote. There's no veto, and he's choosing between Lisa and Amy. Amy is a person who has come back into the game. She was already evicted. Nobody in their right mind would ever vote for Amy in the Final Two. Jason points this out. He says, I don't think Amy can beat anybody in the Final Two. Danielle knows this as well, but they make the decision to keep Lisa over Amy. The question is, why do they do this? There's not much reason. I think ultimately the reason is that they believe Amy is probably better at competitions than Lisa, which also doesn't make sense. But the logic is that they have no plan B. They get to the Final Two, or nobody or nothing gets to the Final Two. So they're hoping that they can beat Lisa and bring each other to the Final Two better than they can beat Amy and get to the Final Two. So that's the reasoning, and I don't think it's good reasoning. I think that, first of all, Lisa was better than Amy at competitions, and in the event that that something goes wrong and the third person wins that competition and takes one of you, you want to be able to beat them in the end. So this is just bad move all around. It was based on loyalty, which I understand to some extent, but just poor decision making. You need to keep Amy there just on the off chance that she wins and you're able to still beat her.
Yeah, I think if and we'll talk about this in a sec here. Let's just quickly recap where everyone had this. Alex, you had it at 13. Brent, you had it at 11. I had it all the way up at number 2. And Taryn, you had it at number 8. So I think we're relatively all on the same page on this one. I think for me, the reason why I had it so high is that if Jason evicts Lisa instead of Amy there, I think Jason walks away with $500,000 in pretty much every scenario. I mean, I don't know if Amy's going to take Danielle, but still, I just feel a lot better about Jason's chances there, which is why I was so high on this move being a bad move. And I love Jason Guy and Danielle Reyes to death. I think that they are two of the best players that have ever played this game. But I just think that one little blunder is just, it's just so bad. And I really wish that wouldn't have happened, because then I think we would have got the storybook finish that a lot of the fans were at least now retrospectively, that we were hoping we could have had with Season 3. Brent, I'll throw it to you. Do you think what do you think about that statement that I just made? Do you think that Jason wins this game if he decides to evict Lisa instead of Amy there?
I don't know. I think it's certainly possible that Amy wins that Part 1 endurance competition where they're holding on to the key, because she won the previous endurance competition when she came back into the game. Although I don't know what happens in Part 3, so who knows. I think she probably takes Danielle. I think even Amy probably recognizes that maybe it's better to take Danielle than the sweetheart Jason Guy. It's just amazing to me, the stupidity, because they had just been so cutthroat, both of them, during Week 5. Both of them cutthroat right in front of America. There's no jury at this point. Everybody, when they're evicted, they're going back to their own house. They get to see all the diary rooms. They get to see everything. They were so cutthroat, and they owned it, only to then, at the Final Four, drop the ball. I mean, this was the equivalent of the Seattle Seahawks throwing the interception at the 1-yard line.
Yes.
Patriots. Like, why? Why did you throw here? No, run the ball. Evict Lisa here. Like, this is terrible. I don't understand this move. I still wish that Danielle, and maybe Taryn can tell us, Danielle and Jason, probably Danielle, because she's the one who responds on Twitter. What the hell were they thinking here? Why did they do this? Like, this is, out of anything that really irritates me, they played such an immaculate game together, and then to throw it all away for some loyalty? Where was their loyalty towards Marcellas, if it was loyalty?
Well, like I said, I think the reasoning was that their plan was, what's the best way to get us both to Final 2? There is no plan B. So they were not working from contingency. They were working from what's the best chance for one of us to win at Final 3, because then we'll make it to Final 2. They weren't thinking about who can we beat at the end if we don't get to Final 2, because, again, they weren't thinking about plan B. And that was their mistake.
Alex, anything you want to add on this? You were the lowest on this. I think you had this one, and I already mentioned it. You had this one all the way down at 13 for you. So, reason why you didn't have this one higher?
Sure. Yeah, I think like we talked about, we've touched on it a few times. There's a few different ways you can kind of look on this. I think I don't want to speak for you, Jordan, but I think a big part of why you would have it at 2 is because of how close it is to the end. How subtle of a difference it might be between Jason winning and Jason losing. For me, I decided. I started my list, kind of my rankings on that approach, but as I went through it, I found myself putting stuff ahead. To me, this is a bonehead decision that in Big Brother 3, if I were to put myself in Jason Guy's shoes, there's never been a returnee in any format on any season of any reality show. There's variables here at play that we just don't know anything about. There's no precedent here. You know what I mean? So, like, while I don't think there's any rational way you can think Amy's a contender to win this game, there's the tiniest part of me that can see a reason why you would think that maybe if Amy gets to the end, the sheer fact that she was like the first person ever to be voted out and come back, like there's an argument there, as bad as it is. Whereas things that made the list slightly ahead of it for me, the Jacob, the Kale trying to convince Danny to take out her, there's just no defending it.
Well, Jason does tell us that he doesn't believe Amy can win the game, like, flat out.
Yeah, and
there you go. So I mean, he sees that, so it's just
but
like,
to me,
for whatever
it's
reason.
like he's pretty sure she can't win, but he doesn't know it. Like, we know now how people feel about returning house guests, that we didn't know these things in Big Brother 3. So like, I'm not defending. I'm not saying it's an argument that's good. I'm just saying, like, there's 1% iota of an argument I feel like that's not there for some other stuff, and that's why it's 13.
For sure. And I think, just to put a bow on this, I think, we were talking about why would they do this. I think for Danielle and Jason, I think that they were at a point in the game where every single thing that they wanted to happen up to that point happened. So I think they just assumed, okay, well, you know what, everything we do is going to work. We're going to take Lisa to the end. We're going to beat her. We're going to go to the final two. One of us is going to win this game, and that's what's going to work. It's happened to me in the Big Brother house before. It surely can happen to some great players as well. And I think that's really all that it came down to. I think it's just like Taryn said, the thought that, okay, Amy just won that endurance competition. We're threatened of her. Let's get rid of her because we think we can beat Lisa in this final HOH. So go ahead, Taryn.
It's kind of interesting because they succeeded largely because of how much of a pair they were, how implicitly they trusted each other, and it's also why they failed, because they were playing the game as a pair to get to final two instead of become the ultimate winner. And that's kind of why they failed. It's kind of ironic in that way. I think this is an instance where we expect a lot from these players, so the fact that they make this decision is even kind of worse.
Poetic justice.
Okay. Definitely. Okay, here we go. Let's keep it moving. We're gonna go down to number 6 on the list, and this is a great move. Oh man, this is a fun one. It did not make Taryn's list, but it came in at number 7 for Alex, Brent, and myself. So that goes to show you, it came in at even though we all had it on number 7, it comes in at number 6 on the final list, just because there was so much, there was a wide discrepancy between all the different moves that have happened over the course of Big Brother history in terms of which one is the worst. So this one happened in Big Brother 8, happened in the final 5. I wanted to put this one higher because this one directly hurt a friend of mine, and I still can't believe the logic in terms of how this happened. So, Alex, set this up for us. What happened at the final 5 that was so terrible during Big Brother 8?
Yeah, so for me, like I've got 3 things on my list that I saw as almost like an A, B, C, and one of them we've already talked about. Another one we aren't going to talk about. But to me, they're like they're very, very similar, and they're like kind of like they're all cut from the same cloth, but they're slightly deviated. The first being Cowboy evicting his sister so he can go to the end with the showmance. This is from Big Brother 8. This is Zach not using the POV at Final 5 so that he can go to the end with the daughter-sister blood relative pair.
Daughter-son. Or daughter.
What did I say? Daughter-sister? Yeah.
Daughter-father. Daughter.
Wow. Okay.
Somebody tweet Evil Dick right now and tell him that Alex Kidwell called him a little girl.
So to me, this is like, very similar. It's a similar move at the similar time. There's very little to defend it. I think that like the watered down version of this, then for me at least, is like the BB13 Adam Pock not using Veto at the exact same spot so he can go to the end with 2 fan favorite veterans. You know what I mean? But in each of these instances, you've got a player electing to do nothing when like there's one clear move. This is the only time. It's Final 5 Veto. Make a move now or make it never. You make it never, you lose. And like, Zach, man, just really dropped the ball. Thought he was in good shape, gets the final 3, and it's like he's surprised to learn that Danny and Dick are going to take each other. It's really baffling.
It's so stupid. As the great Herm Edwards once said, former NFL football coach, he says, you play to win the game. And I'm sorry, but Zach, you're not playing to win the game if you're making this move. Brent, Zach has to win at least some money, right? If he decides to split them up, he's going to final 2 no matter what, is he not?
I'm inclined to think so. They're not going to take Jamaica to the end. They're not going to take Eric to the end. I mean, these people may get there of their own volition, but I don't think anybody's going to take them further in the game.
They're all going to want to take Zach.
Yeah, I think so. I just don't understand this. The only thing that I can say is that maybe, although I just went back and watched this because I knew we were going to talk about it. I saw him talking to Jamaica about targeting the Donatos. later in the game. They were talking about, well, if it's a physical competition, we'll target Evil Dick. If it's a questions competition, we'll target
Danielle.
Danielle, thank you. And unbelievably, he doesn't. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe he doesn't trust Jamaica. Well, because remember, there's 5 people voting here. You need both votes in order to evict because Dick is the tiebreaker. So I don't know. I'm trying to find a way to explain it away, and I just can't. Can somebody please help me? And Dick said, somebody asked Dick about this on Twitter, and Dick said that he knew that Zach and Eric hated each other. But I'm like, well, use the veto on Jamaica then, and save Eric if you want to.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Just get rid of
Eric. Use the veto on Jamaica. You and Jamaica then have the votes to get rid of Danielle, and then you can get rid of Eric at Final Four. So,
and also, yeah, like, I mean, just that logic is just, I don't really get it. I mean, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Explain this? I'm curious. Did he ever explain?
Yeah, that I don't think so.
I'm curious.
And quickly,
if anybody out there, tweet Zach and tell him to explain his ass about what happened at the Final 5 of Season 8. Please.
And quickly, I just want to take a quick aside. I got someone in the chat saying, I find it hard to take Jordan seriously when he's calling out other bad Big Brother moves. For the record, as someone who has made arguably one of the worst moves in the history of all Big Brother in the universe, and we've heard me be self-deprecating about this a million times, I know a thing or two about bad moves because I've made one. So
you're an expert.
I am an expert on this thing. Okay?
For what it's worth, your move wouldn't have made my BBUS list. There's simply too much bad to sift through that you wouldn't have cracked the board. But that's for another day.
If we had included Canada, I think there wouldn't even be any Big Brother US moves on my list.
Oh wow! Okay, so there we go.
4 seasons of Big Brother Canada.
Okay. Well,
But getting back to Zach.
Getting back to Zach, Taryn, yeah, explain this.
I don't think this is as dumb as you guys are making it out to be.
You're
I think
insane!
that Zach looked at Dick and Danielle as 2 players he can beat in the end. He can't beat Eric, and he might not be able to beat Jamaica. And so he's keeping in players that he can beat, and he's not going to look to go to Final 2. He's going to look to win the game. And I'm pretty sure I've seen Eric defend this move as well.
You can't win the game if you're not there. How can you win the game if you're not there? They're going to take each other. They're going to pick you.
He had to take the shot. He had to. If he wins that final 3 HOH, he wins the game.
He didn't. I don't know.
It's a dumb move, man. It's a terrible move.
It's not as terrible as you're making it out to be. It might not have been the right decision, but you can see where he's coming from, where he still comes very close to winning. If he takes out one of the Donatos, then maybe Eric wins the game. You know what I mean? And he has no shot. You know, like, I think that there are 2 scenarios, and both of them aren't ideal. But he made a decision that wasn't so bad that it was like, this scenario you definitely win, and this scenario you definitely don't.
But I think, like, the goal of this is to get some money. Zach is not going to win.
No, the goal is to win.
Zach can't win. He's throwing dead.
We can't have a discussion about this then, because we're coming at it from the standpoint of, if it takes money out of your pocket, it's a worse move than if it didn't. So you're not looking at it from that standpoint. You're looking at it as going for the W or not. Whereas I'm like, if it took $50,000 out of your pocket, then it is quantitatively a worse move than something that did not, for sure, take money out of your pocket. But you're not looking at it from that standpoint.
No, I think
that's fine.
You got to go for the win.
Yeah, but that's fine. Well, I don't agree with that. I think you're trying to give yourself. You can't win the game if you're not there. I don't understand how you can't see that.
I just feel like regardless,
you win a jury vote.
Okay, Alex, go ahead.
I feel like regardless of whether you're playing to win or playing to show or whatever, it's just like, if he gets rid of Dick there and it's Eric, Jamaica, him, Danielle, with Danielle needing to work with Zach, and like he and him having just saved Eric, and like Zach is set up so well there at Final Four. I have a hard time seeing that as a less favorable outcome, even if it doesn't necessarily improve his winner's equity a lot.
The one thing I will say, in terms, not that I want to defend Taryn here, but Dick was head of household here, so he would have had to, by default, evict Danielle here. So he would have had to deal with Dick's rap going forward during the game.
That does change it a bit. That's true.
Yeah.
Because I would love it, man. Zach, that would have been so entertaining though if he would have done that, like, just to see the chaos that would ensue after that crazy revolt there.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but has Eric said what would have happened here? Because this was a fast forward week, wasn't it? So
yes.
How was Eric's vote already determined here as America's player? Like, if Eric gets, let's say he vetoes Eric off the block, Does Eric get to vote for himself, or does the production tell him that, again, save
geez.
Danny?
Production will probably tell him.
Yeah, production would tell him something. I mean, I don't know what it
Save
is.
Dick.
Tell him.
They probably would have used the voting results from the previous week.
Yeah. So I don't know how they would have determined that, but they would have done something. Eric wouldn't have had his own say. I highly doubt that, just based on the conversations I've had with him. But let's move on. Let's jump. So that was at number 6. Let's jump to number 5. Let's see. So just to look at this here. So number 6 and number 7. 7, the Jason move that had 20. Jason Danielle that had 26 points. 7 had 6 had 27 points. This has 35 points, so we're jumping up a bit of a tier here. This one also from Big Brother 8. It was on my list, Alex's list, and Taryn's list. It was not on Brent's list. Alex and Taryn had this at number 2. Alex, why don't you explain this one for us again? Big Brother 8. I had you explain the last one, the Big Brother 8 expert here. So what's going on here? What was this other Big Brother 8 horrific move that happened?
Yeah, I'm really focused on the BB-8 train wreck. Of my top 14 worst moves, 4 of them are from this season. This is another one where just a lot of just very baffling, just no real defending the decision. This is Big Brother 8. Eric is told as America's player that America wants to see Dustin nominated this week, and so Eric doesn't see a way to make it happen on Jessica's HOH week. But he's got it on the back burner that America wants to see Dustin HOH. Fast forward a little bit, and Dustin is getting into it with Dick, and Dustin decides that he is so confident about his position in the house that he wants to go up on the block against Dick to really just send home the message that it was me versus you and I won, MFer. And it's ridiculous. Dustin goes up. Eric sees his opportunity to do what America and production wants of him. The moment you see Dustin pitching himself as a nominee, you see Eric getting all shifty-eyed in the hot tub because his mind is, the wheels are turning. And sure enough, Dustin puts himself up, and Eric puts him right out the door.
Leads to a blindside. Dustin makes a similar face to yours truly on eviction night. So yeah, Taryn. So you had this one also very high on your list. So for once, so one of the rare times on this podcast, in terms of these ranks at least, that we're on the same page. So why have this one so high? And maybe is there a little bit more background we want to talk about with this move?
Well, I believe Dustin calls this a courtesy flush. He wants to sit next to Dick so he can be the person that sends him out. The thing that makes this so dumb is not the fact that he volunteers to go on the block, because he has reason to believe he'd stay. If America's player wasn't in play, he would have stayed. So it's not bad in that sense as far as I'm concerned. I mean, obviously nominating yourself is always bad. What's bad about it is that there is zero strategic benefit for this move. It's purely out of spite. There's nothing that he gains from this. And because of that, he loses the game. So like the fact that there's just no reason to do this other than to be the courtesy flush, there's just no excuse whatsoever. That's why it's so high on my list.
You just love saying that. Say it one more time. Say it with me, everybody. Courtesy flush. Courtesy flush.
And it starts from a place of emotional outburst and, not great, strategic decision making, but he calms down, he talks it through at length in the HOH room, outside with multiple people. This is a strategic move. Like, this is Dustin choosing to make an action in game, completely, level-headed, and it's just completely terrible.
He's making like a bitter jury vote while he's still in the house. It's like, it's absurd.
That's really good.
That's awesome. Brent, any final thoughts on Dustin's courtesy flush?
Well, I didn't have it on my list, and I'm kind of shocked that I didn't, but looking back on this, the reason why I didn't was because I'm going to give Dustin a little bit of credit here. He had a pretty good read on the house. He assumed correctly that if he went up, he would not be evicted. And he was correct. However, the one thing he didn't count on was that Eric wasn't controlling his own actions. Eric was America's player. Eric even said at the live finale, Dick, you better thank America for that, because if it was up to me, I wouldn't have had anything to do with saving your butt there. And he's right. So I don't know that we can really criticize Dustin for a really terrible move when, all things being equal, he was correct in his assumption that Dick would be evicted.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Again, I mean, a little results oriented, but at the same time, I mean, like Taryn was saying, nothing really for Dustin to gain by
no upside. That's right.
No. Okay, so let's keep it rolling. So that was number 5. Here we go. Top 4. This is gonna be fun. So we've got. I mean, I think it'll be interesting. I think we're probably. I mean, I think a lot of people are thinking about the same moves here. It's just gonna be a question of, okay, well, what order are these moves in? This one here. Now let me just look here. I think for the rest of the way, we're all on the same page. We've all got these on our list, except this move. This move, which I have some beef with Taryn for not having this on his list. I have this at number 1 on my list. Brent, this one is from Big Brother 16, and I think when we think about we take the RHAP doctrine of, okay, if this takes money out of your pocket, this is a bad move. I think this is the one thing you can really point to. So Brent, let's tell the audience, what is this move coming in here at number 4?
Obviously, we're talking about the entire game comes down to this move. Big Brother 16, Cody unbelievably decides to take Victoria/Veronica to the end. Sorry, I screwed it up already. He decides to evict Victoria here. That's how I'm already talking about how it should have happened. He should have done that. But no, he decides to evict Victoria. He decides to take the mastermind, the hitman, Derek Levasseur, the man, to the end, knowing good and well he's probably going to lose to him, but he decides to do it anyway because he's a loyal kind of guy. Because he's worried about the ramifications of taking Victoria to the end in the eyes of the jury, because many jury members have threatened, if you take Victoria to the end, we will vote for her. That is a lie. That is bullying by the people who are about to be evicted because they're mad that Victoria just beat them in the game, and Cody should know this. I mean, we just saw this in Big Brother Canada where Mitch said, you know, if one of the Third Wheel Alliance gets to the end, I'm going to vote for one of them. And, of course, one of them gets to the end, and he didn't vote for them. He was a total lie.
It was nothing like that.
It was a sham. Shut up.
Okay.
Yeah, come on, Brad.
I can't believe that you don't at least have this on your list somewhere. You are such a Cody worshiper. You don't even know what
I traded season 9 for this.
Hush. Anyway, so he decides to take Derek to the end. I don't understand. Okay, what he's worried about taking Victoria to the end. Let me ask you this. If he takes Victoria to the end, I know he wins, but from his standpoint, what he should think about is this. Okay, it's the finale. We're in front of many, many hundreds of people, and in front of America live television. Are all of these people really going to let our season be determined by a girl who floated like a princess through the entire game and put her name on a key in the box in front of everybody and defend that vote? They are not going to do that. I'm losing my voice. I'm yelling so hard at this. They are not. Frankie Grande is not going to vote for Victoria here. He's not going to do that in front of America. They're not going to do it.
But she was Batman, Brent.
Alex, help me.
Okay, quickly here. I just want to jump in. So Brent, beautiful words, my friend. That was awesome. Okay, I had this at number 1. In my opinion, this is the worst move of all time. Brent and Alex, you guys had this at 3. Taryn did not have this on the list. Alex, Brent requested that you help him out. So, Alex, you want to help him out, or should we give Taryn a chance to rebut?
Yeah, no, I'll just add really quickly that I think, you know, obviously it's really, really bad. I think it's, you know, compounded by the fact that Cody still doesn't seem to realize how easy it is. You know, that he's like looking like, you know, you hear Paulie's interview this season, and it sounds like Cody has like reinvented the wheel as to how he could win this game. So it's really easy. Just take Victoria. You know what I mean? Like he's thinking about like all these steps and all these subtleties that he could have done slightly differently at week 7, 8, 9, X10. Dude, just evict Derek and take Victoria. That's all it is. That's there, but for the grace of God, go you. You know what, Cody? You're Drew Daniel if you're able to evict Derek at Final 3. You're Drew. You're remembered as Drew. You've got great upside. People are like, yeah, well, that was a solid winner. And, you know,
Cody's
Drew takes that. Drew takes out Diane at Final 3. Diane ran that season, and then Drew's remembered as the best player, really, kind of, not Diane for a lot of people. I believe if Cody takes that, if he John's Netta, to borrow from Big Brother Canada too, if he takes out Derek at Final 3 and makes the final move, a lot of people are saying Cody's better than Derek, which is, like, I believe that that's a conversation that people are having, which is a laugh right now. So to me, it's a big gap in terms of, like.
And it would have totally saved that season. Like, there was such little
too much
strategy.
to rebut him.
There was you're gonna get your chance. There was such little strategy on this season. Hey, I'm going easy on you because I'm laying out everything and you can rebut everything. So I'm putting all my cards on the table. Like, I don't understand how does he? And by the way, I said this in Rob's podcast. Don't take anything that Paulie says as canon here. I really do think that Paulie is being easy on his little brother. He doesn't want to embarrass him in front of America. I think that Paulie clearly knows that Cody should have taken Victoria to the end. I think he just doesn't want to say it. I can read between the lines during his interview. So, anyways, Taryn, take it away.
Okay, well, first of all, here's the crux, and this is sort of what Alex mentioned, where he said Cody is talking about all this other stuff that he could have done better, but why should he reinvent the wheel? All he needs to do is take Victoria. Victoria wouldn't have even been an option if it hadn't been for the reset. Cody's bigger mistake is not working the jury better. He needs to be able to beat Derek in the end if he wants to have a successful game.
You sound like Paulie!
It's true. He's not in the end.
This situation we're given, though. Yeah, sure, that's also a bad move.
But this is putting it in context.
But he can make up for that mistake by doing one thing. All he has to do is say the words, "I vote to evict Derek." Done. That is all. Doesn't matter all that other jury stuff. He wins. It's over. So I don't understand how you can't have this on your list, man. This has to be on your list. The only thing that I can think of is that you just love Cody. Which I know you do. He's your new Hayden Moss.
Okay,
then let's talk about it. Then explain it.
For the sake of this discussion, can you just confine this part right now, and you can talk about whatever you want else after, but can you just define his decision right there to take Derek to the end rather than Victoria? Just please talk. I want to hear you defend. I don't want to hear about the reset. I don't want to hear about this other stuff about jury management. I want to talk about this decision. Was it a bad move or a good move? Please tell me.
It was a bad move. I'm not saying it was a good move. I didn't put him on my list because I wanted to have this moment on the podcast. He would have been at the bottom of my list. I replaced him with season 9. But genuinely, there is a lot of reason for him to believe that Victoria can beat him. It wasn't just the sort of thing where Mitch leaves the house and on his way out he says, "I'm not going to vote for one of those people." It's Derek and the rest of the detonators made a pact. They all agreed, and they all continually said this throughout the season, that if anybody took Victoria to the end, they would vote for her to win. Caleb absolutely would have followed through on that. Caleb was the last person to leave. Frankie probably would have followed through on that. He had a lot of reason. He had a lot of reason to believe that this was true, and it was largely Derek's manipulation that made this happen. But and it was false information, and it was a bad move that he believed the information. But it wasn't as though he thought that there was no upside. He legitimately thought, I have a better shot of beating Derek than I do of Victoria because of this pact. And Derek designed it that way. I mean, I'm giving Derek a lot of credit here. And again, I think it's dumb for Cody to have believed it. I think it's dumb for Cody to have made the decision. But I think the worst move, again, is the jury management. I think that if you take it in that context, if he has better jury management, if he sees Derek for what he is and he works the jury better, then he's not in a position to even have to make this decision in the first place. So
I don't see any way how any jury management whatsoever can combat the image of a married man with a newborn baby winning at the end of Big Brother. And Cody's
the jury liked Cody better.
Huh?
The jury liked Cody better. If you look at the individual members of the jury, they all liked him better. That's why he thought he would win. He thought he had Hayden and Nicole because he had a relationship with Hayden and Nicole that Derek didn't. He's the reason that Hayden and Nicole didn't go after Derek earlier in the game.
Well, at least you've told me that what I want to hear, which was it was a dumb move. Obviously, he's winning. Like I said, in order for him to do this, he has to believe that people are really going to go on live television.
It's happened before.
And put Victoria's name in the box. 5 people are going to put Victoria's name in the box and say, you're the winner of Big Brother 16, and then have to live with those consequences. Now, Cody's not a super fan. Maybe he doesn't understand how the finale works. But, I mean, I knew going into this, there's no way they're ever going to vote for Victoria at the end. Because they have to defend their vote to America.
But again, let us not also forget, Derek would have taken Cody over Victoria. And he would have had a better shot at beating Victoria, but he still would have taken Cody.
That's a whole other story. It's
a whole other story, but it puts light on this situation a little more, where it's like it's not quite as bad as it's made out to be. Again, it's very, very bad. It's just not as bad. It's not the worst decision of all time.
I tell you what, please tweet Evil Dick and tell him that you do not think that this is the worst move of Big Brother ever.
Why would I care what Evil Dick thinks?
You get. I can't wait for the fabulous GIF that he sends you.
I had Evil Dick on my list, trying to backdoor Eric with Jessica's help.
She's really going for it now. Okay.
Okay. All right. Alex, quickly, before we wrap up on this, Alex, I saw you laughing harder than I've seen you laugh. The hardest I've seen you laugh since that time we watched the Angie Tribeca episode during Taryn's explanation of everything. So, any final last thoughts on what Taryn was saying, or just Cody's blunder?
I just looked down at like the perfect moment while Taryn was talking, and Brent was making this face. It just killed me.
If you want to see those faces, you can see them if you want. If you're listening in the audio archives, you're not watching this live with us, you can come back to the YouTube video and watch it after. Go to Reality TV RHAP-ups on YouTube. You can subscribe there, check out the video. Make sure you never miss an episode there. And last thing I will say about this is, if we lived in a world where Cody did this move, where he did evict Derek and he took Victoria, I think for the greater good of Big Brother, I think this would have been much better, because then we would have also had Derek and Vanessa both not win, which means 100% they would both come back and play in a future All-Star season, and we would get to see them come back hungry, wanting to win. I think now we see Derek come back. I mean, yeah, he's still going to want to win. Yeah, he's still going to play hard, and it's going to be fun to watch. But just having that story arc, I think it would have been a little bit more interesting in the long run. Okay, here we go. Let's go to number 3. Number 3 on the list. This is one that I think a lot of people would say, should be number 1. I think this is one that, if you go back, maybe even, honestly, yeah, I think a lot of people nowadays would point to this as just an egregious error. It happened way back in the history of Big Brother, all the way back in Big Brother 3. And this is one of my personal favorites. Taryn, we were just ragging on you. Let's give you a break here. Why don't you talk? You're on the same page with us on this one. What was this move that is so egregious?
Well, this is one of the classics. So this is the first time in the history of Big Brother where the veto is the golden power of veto. You're able to use it on yourself. It's Final 5, Season 3. Marcellas has won the veto. He has the opportunity to take himself off the block, and Lisa will replace him up against Amy, and he chooses not to, basically. He says, I don't want to make you, Jason, have to decide between Danielle and Lisa and put one of them up. I don't want them to have to experience being on the block. My mom and my sister are probably screaming at the television right now saying, use it, you fool. But I'm not going to use the veto. Danielle immediately just puts her head in her hands. She knows what's about to happen. Jason says, I'm sorry, Marcellas, you should have used the veto. You're evicted. Marcellas.
Yeah.
Julie hits him over the head. One of the dumbest moves
that's right. I forgot about that. Julie smacked him.
Smacks him with the cue cards.
Yeah, that's the first time that Julie Chen actually seemed human on Big Brother when she did that.
May I also say, one of the greatest moments of Big Brother of all time. Just everything about it was so perfect. It was like your Blind Side, JP.
It was great. It was a great moment. I think that, and a lot of people have compared it to that. And when they talk to me about my move, they say, "Oh, that was the best thing I've seen since Marcellas." So I mean, doesn't come in at number 1, but I think in terms of most memorable dumb moves, I think this probably this has got to be 1 for a lot of people. Probably would be number 1 for me. So I had this one at number 4. Alex had this at 4 as well. Brent and Taryn both had it at 6. Well, let's talk about this a little bit. Alex, what do you think happens in a world where Marcellas does use the veto? What happens there? Does he win? Does he win? Does Marcellas have a chance at this thing?
He has a good chance.
He's got a real shot. Yeah, absolutely. That's really, really dumb, man. I mean, you know, we all know it's like the iconic, the OG dumb move. You know, like a fine wine, it just gets better with age. It's really, really bad, man. Like, he just, you know, the only defense and the only reason it's not number 1 on my list is that, like, the argument of, you know, I feel like I can get the same outcome without getting blood on my hands is an argument that exists. There's things at like 1 and 2 on my list where I just racked my brain trying to come up with a defense for it, and I got nothing. This, I've got a really weak defense. It's a defense, but it's so weak. I mean, this is really, really bad. This is, you know, number 3 on our list. All the last 3 here are on all 4 of our lists, and I think it's with good reason. This is like clear-cut one of the things you think of when you think of people just messing it up in Big Brother.
Brent, anything you want to add on this? I mean, this is one where we don't really. There's no argument on this. We're all on the same page.
You know, David Bloomberg is also on Rob as a podcast. Tweeted me and said, you know, tweeted us and said, you know, if Marcellas' move to not use the veto here is number 1, I don't know what kind of a podcast this is. You know, there are a couple things. When I was thinking about dumbest moves ever, of course Marcellas was at the top of my list. But I don't know what happens to Marcellas after this. Maybe he goes on to win. But remember, there's no veto at the Final Four in Big Brother 3. So if he doesn't win a head of household, he's evicted at Final Four. I'm certain of that. So it's possible that Marcellas still ends up in the same place he's in right now, which is with no money, and that's what I'm using. So I don't know how you can put him at number 1 when I have things on my list that are higher that clearly took money out of people's wallets. And we're going to talk about those in a couple minutes.
Well, for me, the reason it wasn't at the very top was the fact that this was the first time in Big Brother history that you were able to use the veto on yourself. It was kind of a foreign concept, and the idea of using it on himself seemed kind of selfish. Obviously, nowadays, if somebody made this decision, it would not have that connotation. Nobody in their right mind would make this decision. But the fact that this was the first time, you can kind of see where he's coming from. Obviously, still very dumb, but that's why it wasn't quite number 1 for me.
I will say, thank God, you know, Marcellas, yes, it was a dumb move, but thank God this happened. Because this this showed people, look, this is what's going to happen if you don't use the veto. Like, for real, if you can live in a world where this doesn't happen, you know somebody else is going to pull a Marcellas later on down the line. They're going to try to get cute, they're going to try to look benevolent, and they're going to get their butt evicted because of it. So it was going to be Marcellas or somebody else. I'm just glad it was Marcellas because that was fabulous live television.
And I'm glad Marcellas got another shot in All Stars, because that would have really been a shame if that was his last moment on Big Brother, not using the veto.
Well, we don't need to go that far, JP.
Well, as a little aside, I think the closest comparison to your boneheaded move in Big Brother Canada, JP, is Janelle nominates Marcellas, who is not just, you know, an ally of her, but her clear number 1. I think the Janelle Marcellas comparison is very similar to the Zach and Jordan, as I was going back and looking at it.
Good call.
Well, we'll save that discussion for the top 10 worst Big Brother Canada moves podcast in 2017. But let's keep going. Here we go. Down to 2 moves. I think everybody knows about one move on this list that probably is their number 1. But the number 2, and maybe, I don't know, I think probably people are thinking about this, but you never know. When we were first doing this, I thought that Marcellas would have been number 1 or number 2, but then when we looked at it, this makes sense for me it being as high as it is, just because it's just bad. It's just a bad move all around. Alex, you had this at 5. Brent, you had it at 1. I had it at 5 as well, and Taryn had it at number 3. Brent, I'll let you take it away since you were the highest on this. Let's tell the story of the Final Four of Big Brother 14. What happened there that was so terrible?
Absolutely amazing stupidity on the part of not 1 but 2 people here. That's another reason why it got bumped up on my rankings, and the fact that it cost somebody specifically at least $50,000, possibly more. It's Danielle, who was head of household at the Final Four of Big Brother 14. unbelievably deciding to veto Dan off the block after she'd already nominated him anyway, and give him the sole vote to evict. So let's back up. It's Final Four. Ian is the clear target here, so it seems to everybody, because he was the target the previous week. Danielle and Shane are in a showmance. They're with Dan Giesling from Big Brother 10. Obviously, Ian is the fourth person. Danielle is head of household. She's safe for the week. We play the veto. But before we play the veto, Danielle decides to nominate Dan and Ian at the behest of Dan, who said, nominate me and Ian. Fine. So they play the veto. Danielle also wins the veto, one of the few times in Big Brother history where the head of household also wins the veto. So she can keep her nominations the same, or she can decide to get a little shifty and decide to have fun with them. Well, Dan decides to make a play here. He decides to go to Danielle after he already lines up Ian. I can't remember what order this happened in, but he basically gets Ian. He said, if I save you here, you have to throw Final HOH Part 1, which Ian eventually does. He goes to Danielle and says, I don't really feel comfortable being on the block. This whole time, with the exception of week 2, Dan has not been on the block on eviction night. He's either been vetoed off or he's been safe. He's very antsy about being on the block, doesn't want to be on the block. So he goes to Danielle and says, look, obviously, I'm going to get rid of Ian. We were trying to get rid of him last week. Just let me have the vote here. And me, you, and Shane can go to the final 3. Danielle then goes to Shane and says, Dan wants me to do this. Are you okay with it? Shane says yes. I can't remember exactly what he said, but I remember them being in bed together having this conversation. Yep. He was like, do you trust him? And she's like, yeah. Even though he already burned her previously, but never mind that. She decides to trust him here. The problem that I have with this move is that it fails. She fails to take into account. First of all, she doesn't play her own game. She's playing Dan's game, okay? But beyond that, she fails to take into account, okay, what's Dan's best move here? If Dan gets the vote, what is Dan going to do? Is he going to be like Cowboy and want to go into a showmance, into the final 3 with a showmance? Or is he going to want to split us up? Amazingly, she doesn't see that. I don't know how she can't see that.
Because Dan was her coach.
And it was amazing television to watch. Big props to Dan, but I put in number 1 on my list because not one but 2 people, thank you for the face, Jordan's doing the Danielle face here in the Final Four eviction. Not one but 2 people decided to go along with this plan. And besides that, Danielle, if she doesn't veto Dan off the block, Ian is evicted at Final 4. Dan, Shane, and Danielle go to the Final 3. Danielle goes to the Final 2 no matter who wins there at the end. Instead, she finishes in 3rd place with absolutely no money. She finishes with just as much money as Ashley Dreamboard herself. So, girl, I don't know what you were thinking here, but I know she'd like to have this one back.
Yeah, I think going back to the headlines that Alex was talking about earlier, I mean, for this, it's basically house guest has a free ride to Final 2 and instead trades it for no chance at all of really getting to Final 2. Yeah, that's basically what Dan
wasn't going to take her.
Dan was going to take her, Ian was going to take her, whereas before, Dan would have taken her and Shane would have taken her. So, yeah, I mean, Brent really summed it up there. I mean, really, Danielle, again, like we were talking about with Cody, loses out on a lot of money. Cody's was a lot more, but this is still, free money. She's going to get it no matter what, and instead walks away with nothing. Taryn, for you, did you factor in Dan, Dan just being so good or in terms of this, or you still had it relatively high, so it looks like you didn't.
Yeah, I mean, I did a little bit, because it's Dan, and I kind of factored that in with Danielle, but there's really no excuse for Shane, where it's like it's his life on the line, and he agrees to this. He wasn't even manipulated as much by Dan. He was just like, yeah, Danielle, you're saying you want to do this? I guess so. I guess we can do that. I think the idea was that he was like, oh, yes, Dan is going to get the blood on his hands instead of my hands, which is I think what we've seen in a lot of these really dumb moves, people thinking that they can get the blood on other people's hands. Yes. That doesn't work, people. Don't put yourself in danger thinking that that's going to work.
Can't have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
Better off just taking a bite.
He leaves the game saying, I trusted Dan and Danielle 100%. and Stan just didn't follow through, I guess. Yeah, obviously, come on.
I guess
like,
so.
What else is he gonna do there? Yeah, it just there's no upside. There's no upside. Like Shane thinks there's an upside, but there's even less. There's no upside for Danielle whatsoever. So, just absolutely astronomically not good.
Yeah, it's the same upside as Marcellas, which just, you know, like at Final Four, Final Five, who gives it? You know, who cares about getting blood on your hands at this point? The resume is almost set in stone, you know? It's like, it's very minimal. Yeah, I mean, the line of logic to get you to that decision was so bad, you know what I mean? And then, yeah, I was trying to think of, like, what's a good metaphor for this? And, yeah, I mean, it really is, like, Dan was, like, you know, Danielle's like a shepherd, and Dan was a wolf all season, just, like, eating sheep, like, as much and whenever as he wanted, and Danielle just like wasn't doing anything about it. And then here at the end, like rather than like get her gun, she decides like, well, the wolf's been eating a lot of sheep. Why don't I open the front door and let him play with my kids and see how that works out?
Not to mention like Dan has a long track record of stabbing people in the back, not only from his own season but from this season. He also has a track record of trying to get Shane out previous in this season to Danielle, saying I want to get Shane out.
Yeah.
It's a body of work within that. Yeah, I mean, it's easy to say, like, oh, it's Dan, you know what I mean? But she had been burned by him enough times at that point where it's just indefensible.
No, it just doesn't make any sense. We're all on the same page with that. And
I would have loved, I'm sorry to interrupt, I would have loved to see Danielle just take the bull by the horns for once in her life, play her own game for just a moment. Tell Dan what he wants to hear. Yes, I'm going to use the veto on you and have Dan line all this stuff up. And then
that doesn't happen to Dan.
At the Final Four veto, she says, "No, I'm not gonna change the nominations, Julie. I'm going to leave them the same." I would have loved to see Dan's face at that point. That would have been great. But I love you, Dan, still.
Yeah, I mean, and also too, like again, talking about the character arcs of some of these people. I think Danielle, if she doesn't do anything there, and potentially goes on to win the game, maybe Danielle's someone we could see again in Big Brother. But now, I don't really think we would, just because what is there to see? Okay, let's go to number one then, guys. This is one that we were all on the same page with. This one, I mean, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. I love this guy to death. I mean, it's just such a nice man. Really, he's just such a kind man. Yeah, I don't think. I think this is unprecedented on reality TV. We've never seen this before, and I honestly do not think. I think it's possible for some of these other bad moves to happen again or something like that, but I don't think there's anything comparable to this. I don't think we will ever see anything like this ever again.
Ever going to get handsome-fied ever again.
No, nobody will ever be handsome-fied ever again. Alex,
how you like me now?
So, Alex, why don't you fill the audience in? What is this? What is our consensus worst move of all time?
All right, number one with the bullet on the top 10 worst moves in Big Brother history rankings. I had it at number 1. Brent had it at number 5. Jordan has it at number 3, and Taryn has it at number 1. Lawon wants to be evicted so he can come back into the house with special powers, quote unquote. Yeah. Really not a lot that you can say here. I mean, you want to talk about upside in a strategic move. There's less than no upside to this. I mean, he doesn't want to be nominated. Like, he's not pulling a Dustin where he thinks he can, throw his weight around the house. He wants them to evict him from the game and eliminate him on the off chance that, like, he's got the notion that maybe he would get to come back in the game, and that maybe if he did get to come back in the game, it would be with some kind of, like, advantage. There's so many variables down the rabbit hole that he starts to think about these hypotheticals, and he arrives at them as absolute fact so quickly when they're so far from likely. It really just baffles the imagination. There is no defending this in anywhere other than an insane asylum. This is the only place I could hear anyone conjure an argument.
Actually, no. You know what? The one place where I think that you could defend this, Alex, is Canada, because I could see something like this happening on Big Brother Canada, where someone gets evicted and they come back with magic powers.
How you like me now,
Big Brother Canada.
Wait, what was that? Or you guys both talked at the same time?
He thought he was playing Big Brother Canada. I think we solved it.
There you go. He had a dream. He was on Big Brother Canada, and yeah, Twistos was going to come help him out and save the day. Poor Lawon. I mean, there's nothing really to be said other than that. I mean,
Yes,
Alex
there
stood
is.
up.
Yes,
Okay,
there
what do you?
is a lot
Okay,
to
then
be
what do you
said.
have to say? Okay,
There's
well,
more
okay,
to be
then say
said
it.
that Alex thankfully left on the table for me because it wasn't just Lawon.
No,
okay?
it was not.
It was Kalia and Danielle Donato who went along with this asinine plan.
Yeah.
In what universe did they think this was a good idea? They literally have all the power here. They have all the power. Kalia is head of household. They get an ominous message from Julie. Be careful about who you evict this week. That's all, house guests. That's
They may have a chance to come back, I believe it was said.
right. Well, when this thing with special powers come back?
There was no talk of special powers.
none. There was none.
Exactly. I don't even understand. First of all, I blame Danielle. Danielle could have put a stop to this if she wanted.
Well, she did try, to be fair.
All she had to do was say, look, you guys, Big Brother is about being evicted. If you're evicted, they aren't just going to hand you special powers. If they do give you something special, you're going to have to earn your way back into the house. Lawon, think about this for a second. You're one of our numbers. We need to get Rachel Riley out of this house. Remember, if they do what they're supposed to do here and they evict Rachel, then Rachel is against Brendan in fabulous television trying to get back into the house, and Rachel probably doesn't go on to win Big Brother, though my heart would break because of that. But that would mean that Danielle's playing a good game, and she's not at this point. This is where her game totally goes off the rails. She seems to know it in the diary room when she says, I know I'm probably going to regret this, but I vote to evict Lawon. And you hear the audience go, ugh, like that. And I think she knows at this point that her goose is cooked. Only by the grace of God does she end up staying one more week by miraculously winning the next head of household competition, in which she eventually evicts Brendan again, but then promptly gets evicted the next week. So
Yeah,
I'm related. Kalia, I blame you too. Taryn, go ahead.
Well, first, I just wanted to ask Taryn this. Didn't Danielle and Kalia offer Rachel a deal? Isn't that why they wanted to? Wasn't that why they wanted to get rid of Lawon and because they wanted to stay true to that? Or am I just?
No.
They targeted.
What
They targeted
happened?
Jeff.
What happened was,
Backed
yeah,
off.
Kalia targeted Jeff. Jeff said, "Don't you dare target me because I'm going to win the power of veto, and then I'm coming after you." And Kalia was like, "Oh my God, I didn't expect this." And then when Jeff wins the veto, she was like, "Oh!" She was terrified, and so she was like, "How can I stop Jeff from coming after me?" And her idea was that she's gonna make a deal with Rachel. She has this master plan where she's gonna get the vets on her side by appeasing them, even though she just tried to get Jeff out. Terrible move. It wasn't even something that Jeff proposed to her. It wasn't like he said, "Okay, I'm really upset, but if you don't follow through now, if you get rid of somebody else, then we'll work with you." She offered it up to him, like, "Oh, you're really mad at me. What if I get rid of someone else for you?" And he didn't agree to anything.
Yeah, in fact, he
made a deal
threatened
with. Yeah, he was still mad
They
and was
bit.
still gonna come after her. She made a deal with Rachel, and I mean, you make a deal with Rachel, like, what does that mean? And it was just a terrible move all around. She proposes this idea to Danielle, and Danielle was just like, "What in your right mind are you thinking? Like, this is a terrible decision." She wanted no part of it. But after Lawon comes up with this crazy scheme that he's gonna get superpowers, she's like, I mean, Kalia will not back off of this. I mean, I guess this is the perfect scenario to do this. So as far as I'm concerned, Kalia and Lawon together. Kalia basically pulled the Howie, just like even worse, because at least Maggie was offering Howie a deal. Jeff was not offering Kalia a deal. And Lawon just out of nowhere with these superpowers, just absolutely absurd. By far the worst decision making that has happened in Big Brother.
Yeah, I mean, it really is like the perfect storm of WTF-ery. You know what I mean? You've got like Danielle trying too hard to ride the fence, even though, you know, the fact that she's playing both sides has already been blown up. So there's no advantage to what she's trying to do there by letting Kalia take out Lawon. As far as Kalia goes, you know, she made this weak stab at Jeff and it didn't work. So she's like bleeding a little bit from her finger, and she decides the solution is to cut off the entire arm. You know what I mean? Like, that's exactly what Kalia does here.
Yeah.
And then from Lawon's standpoint, man, it's just like Lawon. You know, Kalia is floundering. She's crying. She's scared of Jeff, and Lawon just throws her this beautiful lifeline of stupid that she can just latch onto before she drowns entirely. It's fantastic television.
Oh, amazing. I mean, when I think of Big Brother 13, I mean, I just think of, okay, that's the season where, yeah, there was that week where Lawon basically voted himself out and Rachel won a bunch of comps and won the season. Like, that's all I think about when I think of 13. Anything else you guys want to add on our consensus worst move of all time?
It's basically like if Kalia was on the battlefield, right? She has her team and she has the enemy team. It's again similar to what Howie did, where Howie's about to strike the enemy and then he kind of turns to the side and he strikes a third party instead. Kalia tries to strike the enemy, and then when she fails, stabs one of her teammates instead and says, "Oh, everything's good now, right?" Like
just turns around, is like, "Who's gonna take the bullet? Because I fired and it didn't go where I thought it was gonna go."
It was an absolute. It wasn't even a waste of an HOH. It was actively like the worst possible decision making she could have made given any circumstances.
Not only that, but it had massive ramifications for the rest of the game. I know they couldn't have foreseen this, but you know, if Rachel or Brendan goes out in that competition then one of them is off the jury, and now Lawon is on the jury. So, I mean, who knows what happens in the end game there, and I just would like to see a different world.
Well, and the other thing, too, right, is that, not even that, like, you know, Danielle the next week had to use her HOH on Brendan.
Again.
Right? Again.
Right.
So
Again.
I mean, I'm just looking at this here. Adam ended up winning that. I'm looking at it. Yeah, Adam ended up winning that veto. It was they backdoored Brendan. So
yeah,
I mean,
Rachel would have been gone there.
You backdoor Rachel. Rachel's out. Rachel doesn't win the game, and it's a completely different season. So I mean, I don't know what happens. I think Daniel Donato might win Danny could have won that season. I don't know.
How do you like me now? Not very well.
No. Okay. And it's Brent, Alex, and Taryn, anything else on this before we wrap things up on the worst move of all time? We good? I think that's we've pretty much covered it. We're pretty good. Okay, so let's talk about quickly, guys. We got a little bit of time here. Let's just rapid fire talk about some moves because we had a lot of moves that didn't make the list. Let's just talk about a bunch of moves that were on our list that did not make the final cut. So, Alex, you want to quickly just rapid fire talk about the ones that didn't make it for you?
Sure. Well, do you want to go down the list, or how do you want to do it?
Yeah, why don't we just go individually? Well, we can just go down the list, I guess.
Yeah, go down.
Yeah, why don't you run down the list and we'll each give like a sentence or two if we want to.
Okay, so I'll just go around the horn quickly. Okay, so number 12, missing the cut, was Kaysar getting back in the house only to make a deal and go right back out. Again, that was the pressure cooker competition where he took his hand off the buzzer. Alex, quick thoughts on that?
Yeah, you know, we talked about it a little bit. I think, you know, it's a dumb move from Kaysar. It's arguably as dumb a move from Jennifer to do it because, you know, is it good for the friendship? Yes, but is Jennifer going to be the fall guy for whenever somebody not in the friendship wins next because of this horrific display of, you know, burning all your social capital? Absolutely. So, yeah, pretty bad all around.
Pretty bad. Number 13 was Taryn's honorable mention, Dr. Will, which we've already talked about. Number 14 was Ollie and Dan making that move. The Ollie taking Dan's deal there, which I already discussed. Now, in a tie for number 14 was Nathan using the POV to save Allison in week 3 just so that he could go out in week 5. Yeah. Taryn, that was you. So do you want to just quickly touch on that? What happened there?
I feel like you guys are sleeping on this one. This one is one of the worst moves ever by far. Nathan gets basically seduced by Allison. She's also seducing other people within his eyesight. Before he makes this move, he uses the veto on her, puts a huge target on himself, gets one of his allies evicted, and he goes out the next week directly because of this move. He gained nothing from it. He was completely played by Allison. And again, he saw her in the hot tub, like groping her ex-boyfriend, and was like, "Hey, that was kind of mean that you told him our plan and you were groping him and stuff." And she was like, "Please give me a second chance." And he was like, "I'm gonna give you a second chance and use the veto on you." And then he went out the next week.
All right, so that's that one. That's another very bad move. I kind of wish I did have that one on there. I could have squeezed that in. That's pretty terrible. Okay, Brent, this is another one I wish I could have squeezed in here. The Big Brother 14 cast deciding to evict JoJo instead of Danielle. So Brent, quickly on that one. I mean, that's a pretty straightforward one because we know Dan would have gone home instead there.
Well,
Or Dan and Danielle, yes, of course.
You have a chance to get 2 people out of the house. Amazingly, they decide to. Remember that they're in teams at this point. They're coaching, so JoJo is on the team that had Willie Hance. Willie Hance has gone home now, so now her team's down to 2. I don't know why they feared JoJo at this point, but they feared her enough that they decided to evict her rather than evicting Danielle and possibly the best player to ever play Big Brother, Dan Giesling. I don't know why. It was Janelle and Boogie. I know who had a hand in it, but they were not thinking with the right head here. Come on, what were they doing?
I mostly blame Boogie and Janelle for this because I think both of them probably go a lot further in the game if they make the other's choice here.
Yeah.
It's that fear of like, we don't want to be, stuck against an overwhelming majority if the coaches come back in the game. We need the coaches, and that ended up being like the self-fulfilling prophecy that doomed them all.
Okay, so there's so that's on there. I'm just looking here quickly. Danielle throwing away her golden key by turning on the vets in 13. Adam not using the POV at Final 5 in 13, which we talked about. There's a bunch of moves here. I think, you know what, the easiest thing we'll do is we'll just send this to Scott St. Pierre, and you guys can take a look on RHAPpyswebsite.com. You can just take a look on the website. All of the moves that we talked about will be in there. Another one that was not on the list that I did want to briefly touch upon, Jeff in Week 7 of BB11 backdooring Russell after Natalie and Kevin kind of put it in his head to do that. I don't really know if that was the right move at the right time for him. Big Jeff, has a lot of moves that aren't so great. But
somebody tweeted me about this. Something else that didn't make our list was Matt Hoffman gets the first ever diamond power of Veto, and he uses it on Sheriff Kathy. Yeah,
that was a good move for his alliance, not a good move for
Matt.
That's why it didn't make our full list, but some people had it on their list.
Another good one made Taryn's list, just missed mine. McCrae exterminates Alyssa on behalf of Andy.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Following Amanda's blindside.
Mm-hmm. And Taryn, do you have one more that we want to touch upon before we wrap up?
One of my favorites is Roddy. Roddy's on the block next to Amy. Amy wins the power of veto. She can't use it on herself, but she can use it on Roddy. She wanted to use it on Roddy. All she asks in return is, if I use the veto on you, will you give me your vote after you're off the block? And he says, yeah, that's a tough one for me. I can't promise you my vote if Lisa goes up on the block. And like he's about to manipulate her into basically giving up her game for him, and he pulls back on the break at the last second, and she realizes that he's manipulating her, and she doesn't use the veto. Terrible move.
Right. I'm trying to say one of my least favorite players in Big Brother history, Roddy. Hated him. Hate his sanctimonious ass. Take yourself and go home. Robot.
It is the much more egregious version of the Nick Uhas tells Alyssa he doesn't
yes.
her.
Right.
Or anything she's bringing to the table in week 2.
I would have put that one on there, but it was earlier in the game.
Yeah. Oh, and the last thing I want to say, I know a few people in the chat room had speculated about, what about Dan's funeral? I think the reason that doesn't make my list is that Frank has to trust somebody, and nobody's willing to work with Frank, right? I think we're all kind of on the same page there, in that as much as it is like a great move for Dan, it's not necessarily dumb for Frank because he's basically just got to pick a poison at that point, right?
Yeah, he had no options at that point, and also it's Dan. So I think we kind of have to cut Frank some slack there, and I think that's why it didn't really make the list. Okay, guys. Well, thank you to everybody who watched this live on this Google Hangout here on RHAPpyswebsite.com. This is a really fun show. I think we should rank the top 10 worst things more often because it's a lot more lighthearted, and I enjoy it quite a bit. So thank you to everybody for listening. A few things you can do. If you want to support the podcast, you can go to RHAPpyswebsite.com/RHAPpy-hour. That's happy hour with an R at the front. You'll never miss an episode if we're doing the rankings or if we're doing our regular Big Brother 18 coverage, which is going to be coming up very soon. Also, just want to let you guys know we got another podcast coming tomorrow night. We're working overtime this week because Big Brother 18 is right around the corner. Brent, Taryn, Alex, and I will all get together once again. We'll be doing a Big Brother 18 preseason draft, similar to what we did for Survivor Co. Wrong. The group we all got together and we did that. I did another draft with some former Big Brother Canada alumni and Jason Roy for Big Brother Canada 4. So we'll be doing that tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. That should be a lot of fun. So don't forget to check that out. And yeah, if you want to get the live feeds as well for Big Brother 18, you haven't signed up yet, go to robhasawebsite.com/live feeds, and you can get them there. You can support robhasawebsite.com that way. Let's just go around the horn quickly. Final thoughts from everybody. Alex, I'll give you the floor. Final thoughts.
This is quite the handsome-fied podcast. I really think we did a great job here.
Brent?
I'm very much looking forward to Big Brother 18. You know, something from Big Brother 17 and Big Brother 16 made my list, so I can't wait to see what person decides to pull a boneheaded move in Big Brother 18. I'm very excited about this season. I don't know why I'm more excited about this season than I was last season, but I'm really, really psyched about it. I can't wait to start.
Taryn?
Yeah, we poked a lot of fun on this podcast. I defended some things for the sake of defending them. I think that, you know, we were trying to have fun here. We weren't meaning to hurt anyone's feelings. I wasn't meaning to say that Cody didn't make a bad move. I think that this was a lot of fun. And everybody should check out American Ninja Warrior. I'm hosting a recap podcast about it on the reality TV RHAPpy feed. It's a lot of fun, and people should listen.
Yes.
RobHasAWebsite.com/RHAPpy if you want to get that. You also get the Challenge podcast with Allie and Brian. You get the Bachelorette RHAPpy with Amy and Haley. Lots of really good stuff going on right now, so check that out. We need a hashtag, guys. I have it. Okay, so I had one. So what's yours, Brent? We'll discuss it. What's your hashtag?
Lifeline of stupid.
Lifeline of stupid. See, I was gonna say hashtag. I was gonna say hashtag daughter sister when Alex accidentally made that comparison with Evil Dick.
Okay, and I was gonna pitch courtesy flush.
Yeah,
courtesy flush. Okay.
No, I'm afraid of what else on Twitter would be there.
Or hashtag. We have Ashley in the chat is saying hashtag Taryn is right.
Oh, we got a second one.
So
just send him a love letter, Ashley. Come on. God.
So, you know what? Let's see. Why don't we do...
Taryn, do you have a wish list on Amazon?
Yeah.
I also want to eat a lot of burritos, yeah.
Okay, let's go with... okay. I never do 4 hashtags. Let's whittle it down to 2. Let's go... well, I think... Well, Brent, what was yours?
Lifeline of stupid.
It was
Lifeline of stupid?
I loved it. Lawon gave her a lifeline of
stupid. Yeah.
Of course she drowned.
I think that's pretty good since we're talking about worst moves. So let's do that. So why don't we do two hashtag options? We'll go hashtag Lifeline is stupid if you were against Taryn, and hashtag Taryn is right if you're with Taryn. Okay. So tweet us and let us know.
I would love everybody that does Taryn is right forever.
So there we go, forever. Maybe Taryn will follow you on Twitter.
It doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, it does not. So there you go. So tweet us, let us know what you thought of this episode. Alex is at Alex Kidwell. Brent is at One Lucky Gay. Taryn is at Armstrong Taryn, and I am at Jordan Parhar. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We will see you tomorrow night on our Big Brother 18 preseason draft podcast. For Alex, Taryn, and Brent, I'm Jordan Parhar. Hashtag Lifeline is stupid. Hashtag Taryn is right. We'll talk to you soon. Take care. Peace out.